could not be here breathing and be comfortable if I was really as bad as they was making it. You know, nobody could be around me. So for me to be this calm, I must have some kind of inner peace. And my inner peace is knowing that once everybody take the time to really see what type of person I am, you'd be surprised that I stuck around this long.
I have to make the life that I do live as happy as I can and try to do the best with what I have. You know, live the best life I can live, be as happy as I can be. Nothing is perfect for anybody. I don't know.
Boys, I swear, I think I figured it out. You know why they don't want us redneck brothers and sisters and the hood brothers and sisters getting along? You know why? Because we'd be unstoppable. I'm telling you right now, we would shut shit down.
There will not be a new trial for Karmelo Anthony in the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf. After 2 days of hearing explosive testimony revealing information from a gentleman's agreement that was not made public during the original trial, a visiting judge ruled today that there will not be a new trial for Karmelo Anthony. The week started with a win for the new Karmelo Anthony defense team, getting the original trial judge, Judge Roach, recused from hearing any further motions. Then they brought in Judge Chitty. For the last 2 days, Judge Chitty heard testimony from lawyers on both sides talking about this gentleman's agreement to basically not reveal character information about Metcalf, the victim, or Anthony, the person who was accused and now convicted of killing Austin Metcalf. The details were eye-opening, saying that Metcalf had behavioral issues in his past, including using racial slurs, and also Anthony having behavioral issues, including talking about a knife and making threats to his girlfriend. This does not stop the process. There is still an appeals process to be had, but a major blow to those who believe that Karmelo Anthony was not given a fair shake. He's serving a 35-year sentence. We'll have to see how that appeal process continues.
Yes. Welcome to Uncensored Enlightenment Talk. And you're here with Ms Grace. And today we're going to be doing our deep dive on the post-motion hearing in the Karmelo Anthony case. Guys, we're going to cook. If you have seen any of my deep dives, y'all know what I'm about to do. So I had so many questions. I had so many angles in my head that I want to discuss with you guys, but I'm just going to let you know now what we're going to do, how we're going to break it down. No podcast form today, but we are going to be using, first thing I want to give a shout out to Atlanta attorney Simone, because originally I was going to do a compare and contrast with different cases, going to do some case law. I think I'm going to share just the video that I did a couple of months ago comparing one of the case, which is Caysen Allison case. When I was reviewing that in the earlier days of the Karmelo Anthony case, I did a brief comparison. So I'm going to just show y'all that video towards the end. But shout out to Miss Attorney Simone, because we're going to show her video, because she has another case that she's going to compare to this Karmelo Anthony case in regards to possibly getting this trial overturned. Also, it was not as easy to get as much information as possible because we're getting snippets, clippets, and things like that. You know, my issue is what Judge Roach did was unnecessary. And I think that this hearing and the trial could have been streamed live, highlighting that the whole YSL trial was streamed live. And when they talk about death threats, just to throw that in there, we were dealing with gangs in the middle of Atlanta. And a few people did die around that situation that I think of, but I'm just going to leave that alone. With that goes to say, this right here was a little bit hard to track. So I'm sending love and blessings to Miss Fit Attorney ATL, because she left from ATL and went out there. Also to all the content creators who went out there and, you know, showcase this on your platform. You know, it takes collective effort, but this is where I was able to at least get a good comprehensive understanding of what happened, because she took so many great, amazing, detailed notes. So today what we're going to hit is some of the motions. Reviewing what happened. We're going to get into, I'm not even going to bring it up right now. We're going to get into the two-sided system, one hand. We're going to break it down. I have a series of questions, series of things that I want to present to you, of the errors, the structural errors, the laws behind there, and some of the things that we could do. If you saw last night live, I was a little bit upset. I felt some type of way, but I wasn't surprised. Welcome to America. But I'm always prepared. I always got a backup plan. I'm always prepared to lose and then try to win again. Okay. So I did disclose some information related to, what the public could do to move forward to hone in on both of these lawyers. We're going to talk about that today as well. Okay. So now before we get into just being legal beagles, if you don't know, my name is Ms Grace. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a legal researcher. I have a background in legal nursing consulting. So that's just like, you ever watch CSI and those things like that, and the person in the back, the weird person in the back doing the investigation and providing the tips to the front line. That's what I like to do. And I want to take that and present those skills to you guys, because I think what be missing is a comprehensive breakdown and timeline, just comprehensive. But we have a lot of good things going on, a lot of people coming out and showing their work. Shout out to the Black community, you know what I'm saying? Black girl magic. Shut up, y'all. I got to give my sisters they love, because they out there doing their thing, as well as our Black male content creators. I'm just going to say it. We got to show love. Okay. So while I'm showing love, I'm going to start off by being human. Also, I want to show a clip by Willie D, one of the top content creators who has been highlighting the Karmelo Anthony case. And he did a short interview with mom and dad, and I wanted to show you guys. So let's go over it real quick, and then we're going to get to the nitty gritty. You know what I do. Okay. Get your pens and paper ready, because we're going to cook tonight. Okay. We're going to learn a lot. We're going to talk about a lot. Let's see. Can I get myself a little smaller? Got me all looking all big. All right. Let's play this real quick. Shout out to Willie D Live.
We've noticed
for the motion for a new trial. So how do you think it went?
it's mixed feelings.
Yeah.
Everything we've noticed a lot of things about the boys that wasn't sent out to the public. You agree? Mm-hmm. Based on what was told, the narrative, it hurt us, man. It just made us. It's right now. I'm still. It was so much at that time.
Yeah. It was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. The dude had a penchant for fighting, for violence.
Yes.
Very, very.
Never
violent.
put out there.
Yeah, like smacking on his friends or so-called friends, smacking on
wordings he was using,
choking his own mama.
Yeah, that threw me off.
Know?
I mean, your mama. I said, man, you got to be different.
Threatening to slap his dad and he don't do nothing. And this kid right here, like he was a real problem. When I heard all of that stuff, I'm talking about a treasure trove of incidents captured on his phone. It ain't like this is not third-hand knowledge. This is him recording himself in most cases, or passing along text messages.
Now, I do want to intervene right here, because there was a clip going around earlier in the case of someone who allegedly looked like Metcalf that was calling someone a nigga, hard R on TikTok or something like that. And it was a video, and then it just got removed, and it was like nobody was showing anything. I'm just going to tell all the Caucasian people stick together, because nobody, even the people that he bullied, the girls that he threw to the ground, hurt, injured, came out, except for some of the cheerleaders. They definitely stick together. But one of the things I want to highlight too, because the parents are surprised of the background of Austin. I guess that's what they're talking about. But I was wondering, the why for me. We're going to get to what Karmelo's texts and things like that, and I'm going to try to analyze it just a little bit. The reason why I say just a little bit when it comes to persons, Metcalf and Karmelo, because it doesn't mean anything for the appeal as much as you may think. We're going to talk about it. They be keeping us distracted on persons, on things when we got to get to know structure. But with that goes to say, I was wondering the why behind Karmelo really, like I said, carrying a knife. Now, the text revealed one thing, but then it can be something else going on, because I know as a parent that my kids have been subjected to some things that I didn't know until I honed in on. They didn't come to me and say, yeah, I got a problem with this person or this, that, and the third. So I'm wondering, is it more history behind Karmelo and then the twins? Did they ever have an encounter that made, or did Karmelo see something? Maybe he came across his videos of hemming up black people, black kids, calling them, and all of that Nazi Germany stuff. So I'm just asking about the why, and then just thinking from a parent, Mama Grace got to come out just a little bit. And that's what we have to pay attention to as parents too. What's going on in our kids' lives is the why for me, because again, my son, when he was younger, he had this blue flip knife. And my son is not violent. I'll tell y'all one thing right now. He is not violent. He's a good kid. He's nice. He'll go the more passive way. But I was like, nah, you give me that knife. Because you can even think that those who are quiet and humble and meek, they'll get the poke. So I took it away from my son. I hit it. He was mad. Till he got older, probably like 18. I was like, huh. And he was like, I was looking for that. Parents, we got to pay attention. So it's a little to me that they didn't have no idea that Austin was like this, or, I don't know if they knew about what was going on with Karmelo and his girlfriend. We're going to talk about that because I went through that too. Okay. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it from all perspectives. Baby, as a parent, whew.
Yes. And it was very shocking. Like I said, right now, it's so much to take in, because it's like, man, what?
Yeah.
I mean, somebody to do that, and how that picture was painted, like it was the perfect angel. I'm just still, like I said, I'm going to shock this to mama.
Yeah.
And you took your mama.
Yeah. Kayla, how hard was it to hear them in there talking, the prosecutor, Worski, speaking publicly about your son, saying things that you know that are not true?
It was very hard. It was very hard.
Yeah.
It was very hard.
Yeah. So, and as a father, I saw your reaction many, many times. And it was like you wanted to say something. How hard was it not to say something?
Man, it's hard, man. God is real. That's what I can tell you, man. It was hard.
Yeah.
Based on the temperature we have right now, with like I said, it's like, man, the things that was revealed, the mindset of these kids, of them, that's what they do.
Yeah.
And we're going to start right here, because we're going to talk about the mindset of our government, of our our system. Okay, we're going to talk about that. So shout out to Karmelo Anthony's family, love and blessings to them. But I'm going to be honest, I do think that they should be more aware. Grace Levi is real. I'm talking about everybody from love. It seems like there's a little bit of obliviousness. Okay, because I'm nosy. Maybe I'm just nosy. Am I nosy? Because I'm on it like kryptonite of what's going on around me in the environment. If I'm feeling racial tones, things like that, and I don't play. So I'm going to say that as in the Black community, I know y'all always think the ice is white, cold on the other side, and it's being shown to us now that we're in the good old Trump era. Okay, and I say that with a smile of pain. So let's move forward. I just wanted to start with that. Love and blessings to them. But Mama Grace going to keep it real. We're going to have to learn from these type of situations and be more aware of what goes on in our kids' lives, and get ourselves off our phone, start being more involved, popping up on them. Moms be like, when I go look in the room, he be like, because he's one of mine's still here. Another one is in college, and I just go in there and pop in, see what's up. Just lay in his bed. You're like, what is she doing? Just being a mama. What you got going on? Just being a father. So moving forward, now we're going to get to the legal beagle part of this, okay? That was the human side. That was Mama Grace. Now let's get into the legal beagle side. Y'all know I just love to research law. So this is going to be robust, okay? So legal experts explain what to expect as Karmelo Anthony lawyers begin the appeal process. So we were pretty excited about the judge being removed because we already saw the bias. We saw what was going on. We saw how the case was handled, the things that came out. We're going to get into it. And I think that Judge Chittum basically just saved that man, but he really didn't want to be saved. That's what I really think by him just recusing him, moving him off. Because if you deny the trial, they're definitely going to say it's biased. So I'm going to deny it. Allegedly, guys. Okay. So let's watch this together and we're going to cook on this a little bit. Thank you for being here with Ms. Grace. Please hit the like button. As we go through it, I'll get your comments on the screen, the ones that's legible, the one that makes sense, the ones that you know what I'm saying. You know what y'all can speak, but Jesus, help me out.
Trial. Our Janelle Fort live at the courthouse this morning with what's at stake today. Janelle?
Stay on topic.
Well, Dee and Matt, before Karmelo Anthony's attorneys can really get into their argument for a new trial, they first want a new judge, and that is what today's hearing is all about. It starts at 9 o'clock this morning. So I have our legal expert, Todd Shapiro, here with us this morning. Todd, I know that you covered this the first go around. I know you're going to be in the courtroom today. Can you walk us through what we can expect in today's hearing?
Sure. So today and tomorrow, kind of a two-step process here on this case. First, the defense has filed a motion to recuse Judge Roach based upon maybe some comments that he might have made post-trial, as well as potentially not allowing the media in the first time. So there are a few points that they're trying to bring up to have him recused and removed from the case. There's a visiting judge that's sitting that will listen to the evidence, whatever is presented by the defense, and then make a ruling and decision whether Roach gets to continue on the case or not.
In your legal opinion, do you think that he is going to be recused?
I don't believe so. Based on anything that I know, I think it's a high burden that the defense has to prove. I think they have to climb a pretty high mountain to get there. And I just don't see that Roach did anything other than run a completely efficient and speedy trial and got everybody a fair trial. Both sides got a fair trial. And so I don't really see how his comments post-trial would have an impact on whether or not he gets to continue to serve.
So we will end up seeing who ends up on the bench for tomorrow, which is something completely separate. They'll be looking at whether.
All right, so you guys already know the outcome of this. Now, for me, I wasn't sure was the judge going to be removed off the trial because of it seemed like they were solely pendant on the statement that he made, but there was a lot of things that was missing, from structural errors as well as what came out on the next day. But that first day, honestly, I wasn't too sure were they going to remove him. But I do think the reason why they removed him is because there is some chance that this judge could be disbarred. And I would think that because people are knowing of each other, they're in the same fraternity, allegedly, not saying those two judges are, but you know how I feel about the judges, prosecutors, and some defense lawyers. They're all friends. That's why I say you guys need to learn how to defend yourself. Learn pro se so you can guide your lawyers, make sure you know what you're doing. They doing so they're not filing one paper, charge you $500. But with that goes to say, the judge, the oversight in the case was terrible outside of what he was presenting, the bias for me. But it was a blessing that he was taken off the case. And I think that gave us some hope. But again, I have to, be cynical. I'm like, maybe Chittum took him off the case just to take the heat off of him. And he already knew that he was going to deny the trial anyway. And we're going to talk about how it may work on appeal because the record for me, it really bothers me. So judicial oversight, we kind of talked about this yesterday. Judges have the duty to manage their courtroom, okay, ethically. If the judge suspect that the prosecuted defense make underlying table deals, this is something we're going to talk about, they are held to some penalty, okay? So I don't know if he wanted to pull him out right away so the people don't get wind that we're going to try to get this guy penalized for some stuff, but he was pulled out pretty fast. And I think it's because of his last state of him being the judge. That's just my opinion. Now, he was recused. Let's take this off the screen. And we're going to go to the next part. Karmelo Anthony retrial hearing focused on the gentleman's agreement. And we're going to get into this gentleman's agreement because these are one of the things that's going to stand out in the actual appeal. Praying that it stands out in the actual appeal. Okay. All right, Let's put this on the screen real quick. Thank you for being here. Please hit the like button. I am not monetized. I don't make money off of YouTube. I just like to tell on the do batters. And I like to teach people how to fight for their rights. Okay? That's what Levi's do. So hit the like button. Get me in the algorithm. Let's get this work. Okay? You got time on this Sunday?
Good evening. Right now, a Collin County jury hearing testimony that could decide whether Karmelo Anthony receives a new trial. Anthony was convicted of murder in the death of Austin Metcalf earlier this summer. David Goins is live in Collin County with the latest. David.
Hey there, Meredith. This hearing today really focusing on what's called a gentleman's agreement between the prosecution and the defense that happened during Karmelo Anthony's trial back in June. But it's potentially fraught when that agreement was not written down or put into the court record, and that is what a retired judge is having to sift through today during testimony for defense attorneys asking for Karmelo Anthony to receive a new trial. Let's walk you through a little bit of what we've seen in the courtroom today. This is the second day of this motion for a new trial hearing. Karmelo Anthony was seated between two of his appellate attorneys you see here in a cream-colored suit and a yellow tie, his handcuffs removed for this hearing. Now, at issue for the defense is, again, this Anthony's defense claimed during the June murder trial that his defense was harmed when an agreement between prosecutors and defense attorneys collapsed moments before Anthony was set to testify. Now, today featuring Collin County Assistant DA Bill Werski, who tried that case, questioning his former law partner and Anthony defense attorney Toby Shook on the stand today about their...
I told y'all about this friend stuff. Okay, finally y'all got it. I've been seeing people talk about, we got no friends. Now y'all sounding like Haitians. Y'all sounding like what I grew up. You don't have no friends. They're not your friends. They're just people you be around. Until proven friendship, obviously, these two lawyers found out the hard way. Well, the defense attorney, as he became shocked and embraced, and oh my God, what is he talking about? I can't believe he turned the tables on me. Right.
Understanding of their unwritten agreement. Clearly, there's not agreement on what each side thought about that agreement. It was supposed to keep out any unflattering character evidence for Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf out of the trial and focus solely on the moments under that tent when Anthony stabbed Metcalf at a track meet in Frisco back in 2025. Now, that split between prosecutors and defense team and their understanding of that unwritten agreement led to a very heated argument during the trial that, according to Anthony's appellate team, kept Karmelo Anthony from actually testifying in June. Toby Shook saying on the...
So, first, I want to give a shout out to NBC DFW News Network 5, okay? Because that's where I'm getting a lot of these, informed clips from. But I will say, it seems like from what I'm hearing that Karmelo Anthony was supposed to testify. They knew he was supposed to testify, and his buddy old pal literally just flipped it on him in the middle of the trial as he was already spanking on his friend's butt when it comes to law. When I listen to these cases, I'd be like football to me, and I'll be like, objection. We're going to talk about that as well, because that's why I think that Karmelo defense lawyer played a particular role, and he more than knew it. He probably didn't know how far it was going to go and how dirty his friend was going to do him. But the casual shadow docket in itself, for me, should have highlight that something was going to go wrong in this particular case. Now, based on the testimony and the 2-day hearing, legal experts view that the possibility of the Fifth Court of Appeals in Dallas overturn Karmelo Anthony's conviction may be a difficult battle. And that's why I want you guys to look at things realistically, because I'm just real. Like, all right, how are we going to do this? Because if we lose, we got to come another way. Like, when we fall, we got to get up. Okay. So it's going to be an uphill battle, but one that contains a real constitutional argument, because the main basis for this appeal is going to be a structural error, not what the Metcalf did, what Karmelo did. We're going to get into a little bit because it's a little bit abrasive, but it's going to be more a structural argument. So arguments working in favor, we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about some arguments working against Karmelo's situation, okay? I don't want to disclose too much because I got a lot to cook on. I might as well just break it down. But I said, let's give it a few minutes to get people in here. You know, we stimulate your eyes, then we're going to stimulate your mind.
The stand this afternoon that Anthony had told his attorneys when they asked him, okay, do you still want to testify, even though we're uncertain about whether any negative character evidence would come out during cross-examination. He said, Karmelo Anthony, according to Toby Shook, said Bill's going to find a reason to open the door no matter what I say. Bill being Bill Worski.
See, he said no matter what. Yes, he said no matter what, he going to cook me. And if y'all watched the prior video that I did, deep dive, just like you saw, we was cooking on it. I said that Karmelo probably got nervous because he was like, yo, I can't trust him. I can't trust him because he know he's gonna come out and just say anything. And one, like you said, we're dealing with a teenager here, and we're dealing with someone who I think is pretty frail. You just saw his father. No disrespect. I kind of understand why crackhead Charleston White said, oh, he ain't no fighter, even though that didn't mean anything. But it does in the aspect of looking at persons as behavior. And I think that probably explains more of Karmelo text when we get in there trying to prove something that he is not. But we're going to kind of move forward. So during the middle of the hearing, in McKinney, Texas, Karmelo Anthony, originally defense, Michael Howard and Toby Shook took their standard oath. Okay, so this is what happened that day. I'm kind of just going to break it down. They detailed the internal breakdown of their trial strategies and their interactions with prosecutor. Okay, so Bill Whiskey. So they kind of went into that. The attorney testimony exposed the exact breakdown of the controversial unwritten gentleman's agreement that ultimately derailed their plans for Karmelo to testify. At this point, it was so detrimental for his lawyer to make the agreement. It wouldn't even matter if Karmelo would have testified. The reason why is because during all of the trial, everybody kept asking who was there, like, why is he not cross-examining the witnesses? Why is he not bringing the statements from the police reports to the witnesses and cross-examine them? When you look at the packet of evidence presented by Karmelo Anthony defense, that's why I was so disgusted, because everything that we showed you in their evidence packet and in the state evidence packet is going to go forward to the appeal, along with the things that happen in this motion, the transcripts. And hopefully they got the transcripts from the actual trial. You know, Judge Roach was definitely violating some things. But what that goes to say, the agreement in itself, that's why I feel like Karmelo's lawyer didn't work for him, and he should be sanctioned, or we should find ways to go after his bar license. Not because only he was tricked, but the agreement in itself to not cross-examine the witnesses that he know is lying, that no, not lying, but may lie. He has documents of the police report of what they said, and he cannot use it. No, that wasn't a good strategy at all. So what this goes to say, the strategy, try the case under the tent. This was their strategy, just anything under the tent, which is stupid. Everybody knows that that's going to be missing key elements of how did we get there. And then it's going to just show the emotional intent part of the situation. And that's where everybody acting stupid, usually. Everybody. You see what I'm saying? Like if someone confronts somebody else, like usually it's back in the day, if a girl come confront me, I'm calm, cool, collective. But then when she pop off, I'm looking like I'm crazy. So if they come and judge from that part on, they're like, oh, no, she crazy. She did it. But they ain't noticed that this person was bothering me for a long time. That's why this agreement under the tent type of way of coming towards this case and demonstrating it for the jury was already self-destructive for Karmelo in itself. Okay. So Howard and Shook testified that the entire defense strategy was built on a proposal by the prosecution to try the case strictly based on what occurred under the tent. And that's because of the crazy history of Karmelo. Well, at that time, I think he knew the intense history of Metcalf, and he knew that he can use Karmelo's crazy text as a way to get the lawyers to concede. Okay. I think that's what it is, because this allegedly said that this was kind of like initiated by the prosecutors. Okay, so the defense, that's at first they wasn't like, it was some testimony that I heard from Fit Lawyer ATL that stated like the defense attorney was like, it was times throughout these shadow conversations where he's like, we're not doing that, and the prosecutor was dead up and they was just acting like friends. I'm going to emphasize how dangerous that is, and how us, the people, have to make sure that we stop that. I got an idea how we stopped. I was talking to my son. I'm like, yo, how do we stop these biased lawyers? Because they all, and prosecutors and judges, because they stay in one area. We have to do, I think we have to do a quarterly rotation with lawyers and judges, and defense attorneys, to be able to practice in 4 counties at a time and rotate. And then within 2 years, they moved to 4 other counties. I said what I said. If I could do it as a travel nurse and apply my knowledge to every hospital I go, that's how it could go. That's how it should go, to kind of mitigate the bias. Friends, my friend. It's okay to be friends. I'm sorry. I'm upset with that, because I've been stressing that to you guys. And this is literally how this case was not given a new trial, because it's legal. It's legal to do that. So yeah, that's a little bit bad. So the deal intention, the goal of the unrecorded deal was to freeze out highly radioactive background evidence from both sides. From the victim, Austin Metcalf, this meant holding prior incidents and allegedly bullying, not allegedly, it's not allegedly, bullying and racist graffiti, which was found on his phone. He was locked up for it and everything. He went to jail. He even went to jail in middle school. Like, I wish I had the picture, because I didn't want to show them as a kid, because it was a picture of Metcalf and his brother as a kid, and they had that army outfit on. I was like, yo, they look so like little bad kids. Okay. Now, let's get into a little bit of persons before we get into the law, because there were some things that the prosecutor was supposed to disclose, not trickle out and use it to their benefit because of Karmelo background. So let's first start with Karmelo background. We're going to break it down, kind of my perspective on maybe the why behind Karmelo acting like a whole damn fool. I'm just saying, I'm a mama. Baby, what were you thinking? Okay. Now, I understand this, and it's not acceptable, but I understand, because as a mother, I have been in the middle of controversy with my young adults, and the things that was said between the young adults, it was very vital. Does that make sense? So this is why I think that Karmelo was trying to demonstrate that this type of behavior, because it's a social norm. It's a social norm on TikTok, Instagram, social media, to be desensitized, to do anything, say things for shock value, to prove yourself if you're not actually proving yourself, like Austin Metcalf was. So let's just get into persons real quick, and then we're going to get into what the prosecutor was supposed to disclose in a timely manner.
Both prosecutors and the defense in this case presented their case using a motion for a new trial hearing to expose the violent backgrounds of both Anthony and Austin Metcalf.
JD Miles has been in the courtroom all day, and he joins us now live with the latest. JD, there is a lot to unpack here.
There was a private off-the-record agreement between attorneys for Karmelo Anthony and prosecutors to keep the sordid backgrounds of the killer and the victim out of the ear of the jury and the public, to focus solely on the murder trial and what happened under that tent at the Frisco High School track meet last year. But now there's in this motion for a new trial, the background reports are being released, and the defense is going first, releasing 20 pages now of Austin Metcalf's behavioral history. Karmelo Anthony was dressed in a suit and tie for this morning's hearing, which began with the defense arguing that efforts by the trial judge and prosecutors to combat threats and deal with disruptions actually prevented Anthony from getting an open and fair trial. But bombshell testimony came this afternoon from Anthony's trial attorney, Mike Howard, about Austin Metcalf's background report that was never presented to the jury. CBS News Texas has also learned new details about Austin Metcalf's background. Metcalf and his brother Hunter were once caught spray painting graffiti, including KKK Kill All Blacks and Heil Hitler, along with the N-word, and were sentenced to 12 months of juvenile probation. Records reveal they reportedly told authorities, "We did some dumb stuff. We did some vandalism." There are several documented instances of Austin using racial slurs in school, and in 2023, Austin was accused of bullying a black student in class. In 2018, while still in elementary school, Austin and his brother
Look at him. Look at them. Y'all think this is nice? No. It's the demon spawn. I gotta tell y'all something off the wall, and I'm gonna get to it. I have experience. And that's why I say people need to stop saying that there's no racism, because y'all literally teach our babies this. And this happened to me this year. So I had took on a case with a Caucasian family. They were probably like young couple. And I end up going to the old address that they had on the case files. Okay, if y'all don't know, I'm a pediatric nurse. I do all types of stuff. So the address was the grandmother address. And I'm just keeping it real because it reminded me of the little boy that said what he said. So when I got to the grandma's house and the grandfather, first and foremost, I felt the tension. It was thick. Something didn't feel right when I pulled into the driveway, even though I was up in the Gainesville areas up there, like Helen, Georgia, where you see all the KKK flags. I ain't never scared. Grace ain't never scared. God got me. I'm going to take care of them babies. Go out there and take care of y'all babies. So the grandmother was like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, my name is, nurse, da-da-da. I'm here to take care of what, I said the name, and this was the address, this, da-da. She was like, "Come in." I'm like, okay, something ain't right. So I came and she was like, "They don't even live here no more. Why do y'all have our address on the thing, this, that, and the third?" I'm like, "I don't know. I was just sitting here." Like, it was just thick. Then you had this, she was looking pale, raggedy, hair blonde, stringy. The father was sitting there, shirt open, on a rocking chair, looking a little nervous, making me feel like the hill has eyes. And I said, "Oh," it was like, "Well, stand right there. I'm gonna call her." I said, "No, thank you. It's okay." I literally backed myself out of that house backwards. This was this year, okay? And said, "You guys have a good day." Got my ass up out of that driveway real fast. Called like, "Hey, the contractor, like, you gave me the wrong address. I felt some type of way. It better not be too far. Y'all got me up in KKKville, yada yada." Anyway, got to the baby house. So the baby, he has a brother. He has a brother that's 2 years old, and he's so cute. They all cute. I love kids. This was literally less than a half an hour from me leaving the grandmother house. I'm talking to the mother. She's on this side of the crib. I'm on this side of the crib talking about everything. He came in, ran in there like, "Nigger!" 2-year-old little boy. And I lie to you not. I just looked at him. He said it again. "Nigger!" And she said, because at first, everybody got quiet and she tried to act like she didn't know what he said. He said it again. She was like, And he has a biblical name, and I'm not going to say the name. She said, "Don't say that. That is not nice." And I looked at him, and he ran out. I said, "It's okay." She's like, "I'm so sorry." She was like, "I don't know where he learned that from. This, that, and the third." I'm like, "Listen, it's okay." I just had to stay focused. So to get to the conclusion of that, probably later on in the evening, the father came in and was like, "Hey, I just want to apologize to you because the house you went to first was my family house. And that's why I don't deal with them or would stay there. That's why we moved out, because they really basically racist. And they taught the grandson to say that. And maybe they were calling saying that about me at the time when I showed up, because their house was like 15 minutes away. The little boy must have heard it and came in the room and said, "Nigger." And guess what I had to do? just hold myself like the Hebrew and the person of God. And I took care of that baby. Baby, took care of that baby, driving 2-3 hours to go help. So what I see when I saw that, and them pictures of them, I said, oh hell, I see the hellraiser. But guess what ended up happening with the little boy? After being with them for even like just a week, he fell in love with me. Wouldn't leave the room, always under me. He ain't never say that word again. So the hate is taught by them. Okay, let's keep that real. Keep it a buck. So I just had to share that story with you guys for the people who try to say, nah, it's not. And da, da, da. I experienced it this year old. And this was after the Karmelo case. And this was right around the stabbing of, no, it was right around Karmelo. Yeah, I wasn't around the stabbing. Yeah, because it was after that, because I was like, dang, it's tensions. I'm up here. I told the contractor, and we had this long-winded conversation where he was like, well, if you're afraid, let me know. I said, well, it's some risk factors. Like, this is Trump America. And he tried to flip it on me. Let's move on. Let's move on. I'm getting post-traumatic stress dealing with these white people stuff. But I deal with it, y'all. Let's move on. So, let's just talk about the Austin twins, and then we're going to get into Metcalf, because this will be the last time that I talk about this, because guess what? It really doesn't matter when it comes to the court case, allegedly, but it should have mattered in the original trial. But the appeal, it may not do nothing. So as you see, these two kids, some amazing kids, got in trouble for vandalism, got arrested for the extremist graffiti, allegedly descended spawns of the not Nazi Germany, you know what I'm saying? The mustache man putting on walls, KKK, unalive blacks, hell, mustache man. Punishment, court records reveal Metcalf was sentenced to 12 months to juvenile. At 7 years, history of school suspension. I'm sorry, not at 7 years old. Let's correct that. A 7-year consistent history of school suspension. Weapon threats. Metcalf received an in-school suspension after being caught discussing plans to bring a firearm to school with another student. This is why we have active shooters in school. Now, I know they got mad at me because I had said this a while ago. White women, you make these murderers. It is white women that's making these murderers, because when in that house with mama, I had to teach her to put her foot down because the little boy was running her amok. I was like, girl, he gonna be big like his father. He gonna be bigger than you. If he ain't listening to you now, he gonna beat you down. I told her that, the parent of the person who called me a nigger. And I think that's what somebody missed by telling the Austin Metcalf mama, because obviously what we heard is that they were beating them down. You talk about our kids, but we ain't letting them come up in our house, beat us down. Oh, hell no. You'll be outside before that happened, baby. Moving forward, repeat accusation of racial bias and slur. As you know, allegedly there was, because we didn't see it, but people in the courtroom maybe saw videos of these boys attacking, accosting, threatening, being racially driven towards black kids, bullying them, highlighting that they big as all hell. Like 210 pounds. And I love the fact that people keep on mentioning, why would Karmelo's poke? Realistically, y'all gotta stop playing. Y'all gotta stop playing. Take yourself out. We all purple here. We purple here. Take yourself out of being white or black and go just be there where you have somebody 85 pounds bigger than your person with a history that Karmelo knew of that we didn't. And then it's two of them. And then what I showed you with the video, it was a crowd of his friends around Karmelo. And then his friend Eddie allegedly was being bullied too, bitch ass. God was like, fuck it, let Karmelo get bullied this time. I'm not getting bullied, allegedly. Stop asking why Karmelo would do this. Because I don't promote murder. I don't promote this. But like I said, before, I was always taught, before they get me, I'm going to get you. And then at least I'm going to be alive. So that's just what it is. So let's really be realistic. Put yourself in Karmelo's shoes. Bones weak. Arm just got fractured or whatever. Skinny mini. Stressed out about his girl. His girl cousin over here playing on his mind, recording him. I'm 18. I'm a child. with no damn frontal lobe or common sense. Some 26 as a man. Think about it. And we're gonna get into the Austin twins, but I gave you a little bit. I'm gonna have to tell you, it's the white women. Y'all gotta take responsibility for raising people like that. And that's real. So the repeated accusation of the racial slurs, attacking, physical violence against females. And where did that come from? Because we're gonna get to the text. Because I said talk that talk is high, but walk that walk. And it looks like the Austin twins walking that walk. Where did they learn this from? Maybe that's the despise that we saw in the Metcalf mother's face when they said that they married, and she was like, hell no. Maybe that was what we saw. Maybe they had a history of domestic violence that these kids were subjected to. White America, you need to fix this. Just like you say, what was her mama doing? We like I said, I'm getting on people. I get on my people about what we need to do. I say ain't always cool over there, and sometimes we naive, but baby, you're making murderers. And then the school put them in school suspension for allegedly saying they're gonna come and shoot up the school. That is stupid. So you have the school codifying this shit as well. Right. Moving forward. Point 5, kill that MFer. The aggressive mindset of the boys. So Austin knew, it says Russell Wilson highlighted text message from Metcalf's phone on the exact day of the death to prove his aggressive mindset. So I'm not 100% sure what that was connected to, but I think it was about somebody being under the tent. I don't know if that was Karmelo. I'm gonna say allegedly. I know it was something about somebody being somewhere they weren't supposed to. He said, "Go kill that motherfucker." That's what we talking about. That's what a young man is supposed to be talking about, killing somebody. And we have white America that's making justification. A lot of you guys have turned y'all wings around. I saw it. Shit. Because he was busting on women's. Your daughters could have married that right there. You could have killed her. Yeah. Murdered her. Murder. Because you know you ain't want no black girl. So you are unleashing monsters in your own nation. If you want to talk about what we doing. Okay. So let's finish. Good move on when we talk about persons. Now we're gonna get into Karmelo's person. Because I'm gonna get on Karmelo too. Baby, what was you thinking? Babe, I'm gonna treat him like he is my daughter or my son. What was on your mind? For a girl? Let's go.
One day after winning their fight for a new judge, Karmelo Anthony's attorneys are now fighting for a new trial.
Both sides spent much of today arguing over whether Anthony's rights were violated during his murder trial and revealed some new evidence in the process of all that. Fox 4's Alex Boyer was inside the courtroom today and joins us now live with what he heard. All right, Alex, what's going on?
Hey guys, good afternoon. I can tell you that testimony just concluded for today. Now, the new defense team is arguing that Karmelo Anthony should be granted a new trial due to a lack of transparency and what they call limited public access to that original murder trial. As always, cameras were not allowed inside for today's hearings. As you mentioned, I did sit in on a good chunk of that along with our sketch artist. Take a look. Now, Anthony, who is now 19 years old, wore a suit and tie in court today. Presiding Judge Michael Chitty, who was just appointed yesterday, allowed his handcuffs to be removed while court was in session. In opening statements, lead defense attorney Russell Wilson argued that Anthony deserves a new trial because of errors that limited the public's access to the proceedings. Former Collin County Public Information Officer Derek Jackson testified that before the trial, testing was done to make sure that cameras would work in an overflow room for trial observers. Jackson testified that then trial judge John Roach, who was recused yesterday, then told them that there was not going to be an overflow room for the actual trial. Jackson said he was not told what the deciding factor was. I talked to an attorney who sat in on today's proceedings
and honestly, I think that was one of the reasons why that the judge got recused too for this administrative error, because they will recuse someone based on administrative error than their actual decision, their trial outcome of the trial. Like if somebody's guilty and the judge agreed with it, ain't nobody worried about that. But the administrative part of it, I think that is one of the reasons why they recused him. But I really believe that the administrative part is something very important, and I don't understand why they didn't do a mistrial, honestly. If we want to get to the administrative errors, it's so many.
Court observer.
The main factor to it is everyone has a right to a public trial and to have trial that the public can watch as a constitutional right, just to make sure that things are done fairly.
Was convicted of the murder of Austin Metcalf back in June and sentenced to 35 years in prison after a jury rejected his claims of self-defense during a confrontation with Metcalf at a school track meet last year. Metcalf was fatally stabbed by Anthony. On Thursday, Wilson also said that Judge Roach allowed what he called a shadow docket that kept information out of the trial in public view, including off-the-record conversations between attorneys for both sides. Wilson argued that Anthony was not present during pretrial hearings, which is his constitutional right.
And we're going to talk about that, but I wanted to really focus on the person's thing so we could just get this out. So people are like, oh, you being biased. You ain't talking about Karmelo. Let's get into what Karmelo did. Because, baby, I'm telling you, love and being an adolescent, and from what I'm hearing, I'm questioning, was Karmelo actually bullied? Because what he's saying here, he didn't do it, but what he's saying, it sounds like a cry for help, and it sounds like the preemptive of someone shooting up the school too. Shit, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. Let's just keep it 100, a buck 100. I will pray that he would not. But as a parent, and then the school, and then they're seeing allegedly bully going on towards Black people and not addressing it. Let's listen. So allegedly, it was evidence that was produced by the prosecutor that was basically held under the gentleman agreement, highlighting that Karmelo fantasized of extreme violence and knives, allegedly. Now, there is somebody saying that I came across on the internet that said there was more context to this knife thing, allegedly, licking the blood off of it. Someone said that had something to do with Grand Theft Auto. I don't want to make no excuses because I didn't read it at the end of the day, but I don't even like Grand Theft Auto and none of that bullshit. Yes, I'm really a Levi. Those are no good for the mind, psychology. That makes our kids numb to shooting and killing. So I don't know if that could have been related to that, but that's what they're throwing out there, just to give you a heads up. So the most damaging piece of evidence allegedly was the string of graphic text showcasing of obsession with stabbing and blade weapons. It's not just Grand Theft Auto. It's Call of Duty. All these violent things, okay? That's why some of them games actually banned in China, because it said to make the kids violent. But I can see, because we just let our kids be put on the game all day. I'll be on it like, what the hell are you doing? What's going on? Even grown people be on it all day. Now, the morning of the attack, allegedly on April 2nd, the exact morning of the fatal attack, meetings with Austin sent his girlfriend a graphic text and a photograph of a knife with the text stating low key on the verge. Let's listen. So we have to have more context to this. Let's keep listening. Okay. Death threats and stalking allegations against his girlfriend. It seems like Karmelo not only has some type of attachment issues, which a lot of young people do and regular people do, but I'm looking at it from my psychology book, okay, in the adolescent development. Now, if there's any type of bullying going on, you got this video game nonsense on, you got the affinity for violence, being numb. You have parents that, to me, I love you, Karmelo family, but y'all look oblivious, like, I didn't know, like a little bit oblivious and not digging into what their kids doing, what's going on. And this boy could possibly be getting bullied like the other Black kids, because we don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know, because I believe that 7 minutes that's missing was an episode of bullying. And the camera was Eddie capturing it just like they had on their phone prior. Does that make sense? So I'm not making excuses for Karmelo behavior, but it's looking like something to me. Especially being in a majority white area, you're trying to do your best. Little football is the thing. He's been really doing good with it, just trying to acculturize yourself to how can I say, a tone that us black people know. We know shit. I know. I don't know how they don't know that you guys be feeling the way towards us no matter what we do. And even if y'all like us for a second because we're doing something that you like us to do or want us to do, soon as we don't do that, you're flipping on us. We know, I know it. You know what I'm saying? How comfortable can a motherfucker be? So imagine kids. That's why I was so leery on where I moved with my kid out here in Georgia, because I was coming from Newark. I was coming from the hood. And then I'm coming down south. That's one. And then I'm going to go to a place that got underlining racism, good old boy system, Confederate. Nah, that ain't about to work. I'm not about to have my kids subjected to that. Because even in the mixed area where I was at, I got in trouble with the school because I didn't like the way they was doing shit. So I'd imagine if I was in an all-white school, baby, I would have been in jail. So with that goes to say, I'm coming to this conclusion that I'm thinking Karmelo suffered some type of bullying, possibly some failure to, like, how can I say, not thrive, but, you know, make it in his environment to a certain extent. He's pushing, but these behaviors, the attachment issue to his girlfriend, even though these young people crazy, and the extremeness to it says a lot. Because personally, with a situation I know, the child that was acting like a fool in my family, they were trying to basically express themselves, find themselves in society, trying anything, not anything, trying a lot of stuff, and then had an attachment issue to a relationship, and was using that as a catalyst for behaviors and demonstrating bad behaviors through the toxic relationship. Now, I'm saying we got to think about this. You know, Mama Grace got to come out. So this is what I'm thinking, because a lot of the stuff that they talked about with Karmelo was literally about text, little about talking, moving his mouth. But what was alarming to me was that in 2023, text threads uncovered by investigators, Anthony wrote, "I'm going to shoot up this school tomorrow." What the hell was happening in the school that you want to shoot it up? Usually those school shooters, that's usually Caucasian, you know, cross the side, Karmelo, usually Caucasian. Y'all know y'all got a high number. Those kids are bullied, outcasts, don't fit in. That's what I'm telling you. So when he said that in 2023, that was a cry for help. Something was going on. Okay, I'm not going to dig in that too much, but I will say that it is hard for parents. One day I found my daughter diary when she was like, it was a middle school diary and she was in high school. And I read it and it was like, she basically talking about girls trying to fight her in the bathroom. And she couldn't tell me because she knew I was going to wild out and she didn't want me to get in trouble and she didn't know what to do and she didn't want to be a big deal, but she was crying. And she told me that story. She was like, "Ma, I wanted to kill myself." I was like, "What? What?" And this was when she was in middle school. And I didn't even know what happened. And I said, "Oh my God, thank you to the Ruach. Thank you, my Lord and Savior, for holding my daughter mind, because I didn't even know what was happening." I didn't read that until she was in high school. So parents, pay attention to your kids, okay? And then it says allegedly he has an obsession with fighting, but we don't have any stories of Karmelo actually kicking people butt, putting butt to tail like the Austin twins. But it says steadily read the present pattern of behavior indicating Austin was actively spoiling. It says spoiling. It didn't say suspended for fighting. They didn't say suspended. Maybe my resources messed up. School logs show a history of threats, including 3-day suspension for threatening a 12-year-old by stating he was going to get a gun. How old was Karmelo? How big was the 12-year-old? Why are you getting a gun for a 12-year-old? And why the hell do he get 3 days suspension out of school for making a threat, and Austin get in-school suspension for talking about he coming to shoot up the whole school too? There's something fuck wrong with this school. Something wrong with this environment. I was trying to figure out where this is coming from. It's not just the parenting and the racism too. It's the stuff school system. No child left behind. Nobody paying attention to our damn kids. Moving forward. So did we talk enough about persons? Did we make everybody feel good that we talked about persons? You know, we got the racial thing going on. But what I will say, when it comes back to the rule, that we need to pay attention to. It is the Brady violation that I believe happened. There was a Brady violation, in my opinion, that happened related to the prosecutor, because the prosecutor was supposed to disclose all of this. He wasn't supposed to trickle it out for the defense and use it later on as we having lunch, and they're like, yeah, you go have your client this and can't say this, and later on in the middle of the trial, yes, best friend, your client cannot testify. You see what I'm saying? Because look at all of this shit. So let's watch this real quick. I'm gonna play it a little bit fast for you guys. This is Professor Stevenson, disclosure rules of Brady violation, model rule 3.8D. We're gonna watch a few minutes of it. I'm gonna see can I make it go fast, because he do sound like the dry eye commercial. But I want you guys to listen to some other experts. Well, experts. You know me. I'm just a researcher. You're just in people's business. You know, exposing them crooks.
To the defendant. In other words, you have.
Let's go.
Model Rule 3.8 sets forth some special ethical duties or responsibilities for prosecutors, those who represent the government in bringing criminal actions against individual defendants. Rule 3.8D, which is a subsection we're going to talk about in this video, is about special duties to disclose information that might in any way be helpful to the defendant. In other words, you have to turn over information that they don't know, that you know, that might help their side. This can kind of create friction with a lot of people's intuitions about strategy and trying to win their cases, but it's a very strong duty.
And guess when this was supposed to really happen? In real pre-hearings. Okay, pre-trial hearings. We're going to talk about that and how much that would actually affect the appeal, that it wasn't done properly. But that's when all this is supposed to come out. Oh, you wish your evidence was my evidence, put it all out there, and it's supposed to be on a court record. Okay, this shadow docket, for me, it makes me want to throw up. It really pisses me off. It does. And anybody who justify it, obviously is justified because this case wasn't turned over. It wasn't, I mean, not a new trial. I mean, it's not a new trial. Obviously, it ain't against the law. Okay, let me stop talking about that because I'm upset. Let's listen to my man real quick.
Also overlaps with a line of Supreme Court cases, starting with Brady versus Maryland, that we're going to talk about too, so that you don't get them mixed up when it comes time to take the MPRE or your law school exams.
This is what I watch, guys. Okay, I'm a geek.
I'm Drew Stevenson. This is for my professional responsibility class. Let's dive in. So as I said, we're talking about disclosure rules and Brady violations under Rule 3.8D of the Model Rules of Professional Conduct and the old Supreme Court case, Brady versus Maryland. So 3.8D starts by saying a prosecutor shall make timely disclosure to the defense of all evidence or information known to the prosecutor that tends to negate the guilt of the accused or mitigates the offense. And notice the words that I put in bold. You have to do it timely, in other words, typically before trial or as soon as it becomes known to the prosecution. You're only responsible for information that you actually know as a prosecutor, but notice they sort of...
Hey, yo, wait a minute. So you tell me the prosecutor ain't know nothing about the Metcalfs? Go ahead, TikTok. Go back and go figure it out, what plantation they own and how bad their history was. You telling me they ain't know about the Metcalfs? All right.
A low bar for anything that could even be a little bit helpful, potentially, to the other side. And wait, there's more. In connection with sentencing specifically, you have to disclose both to the defense and to the court or the tribunal all unprivileged mitigating information known to the prosecutor, with the exception of when the prosecutor is relieved of the responsibility by a protective order of the tribunal. So, and remember, this is an exception that runs...
If a judge basically say you can't bring up the person past, or that case has nothing to do with this, okay?
All through the model rules, you probably will never be subject to discipline if you are acting pursuant, simply obeying a court order. The court orders you to do something and you do that thing. Generally, the model rules will say that you won't be subject to discipline. But if that hasn't happened, you have this duty to disclose, not only related to guilt and kind of the gradation of offense, but anything that could be a mitigating factor at sentencing. And the comments to Rule 3.8, really only one of them is about subsection D, and that's comment 3, and it says, the exception in paragraph D recognizes that a prosecutor may seek an appropriate protective order from the tribunal if disclosure of the information to the defense could result in substantial harm to an individual or to the public interest. So,
okay, and that's what he did not do. He did not seek an order to exclude that information. This was all done through the shadow docket. Okay, we're gonna listen to a few more minutes of this, and we're gonna just break down the Brady rule, and then we're gonna get into another rule that the prosecutors supposed to follow as well, because they knew, and it was about credibility.
what are we talking about? The identity of undercover police officers, perhaps, or the identity of a confidential informant that gave a tip to the police, or maybe the location of the victim where they're trying to hide from retaliation or something like that. So there's
things like that is a restrictive type of protective order. It's not just blanket. Nobody know nothing. We don't file anything on the system. The clerk don't know shit. We don't know shit. We just eat dinner and we talk about it. That's not how it's supposed to be. So constitutional rule, the Brady rule, originated from the landmark Supreme Court Brady versus Maryland 1963. Prosecutors have the absolute constitutional obligation to disclose exploratory, excuse me guys, I am Haitian, okay, with a list, bear with me, expository, that exclude, I can't even get it out of my mouth right now, evidence, meaning any evidence that is favorable to the offense. If they have anything that will basically say, okay, this person is not guilty, or there's some evidence that can prove that this could possibly be self-defense, like Austin's history, the intent to hide it, for me, I think breaks the Brady rule. I'm not a lawyer, but I just researched some stuff. So self-excluding duty. The prosecutor must hand this information over automatically. The defense does not have to ask for it. It shouldn't have been fed to the defense time after time of them not having a real hearing. What must be disclosed? Any evidence that tends to negate the defense guilt, supports the innocent of the defense, or could mitigate their potential prison sentence. This could mitigate Karmelo's potential prison sentence to be sentenced for manslaughter. And we're going to get to that too, because even with the judge's instructions, we were so blindsided about persons, but the judge's instructions even sucked. Okay, go look at our last live that we did deep dive, and I had AI do the podcast, and they was like, oh, that was the worst. He treated the jury bad. The instruction was halfway. He basically gave them the book to read and say, go ahead, and you're going to stay here till 11 o'clock. He was abusive. So, the prosecution team rule: a prosecution cannot claim ignorance under the law if someone, police, victim, or whatever, has favorable evidence. The prosecutor is legally deemed to possess it. That if they possess it, they must hand it over in disclosure to the defense. That is supposed to be done in the pre-trial hearing, and it was not. Okay, so let's go on to this. This is what I'm saying. This stuff, for me, justice or just us, this was gross. This was a gross miscarriage of justice, and I believe they all played Karmelo. And now his lawyer or his ex-lawyer is scared as all hell because he looked like crap and he ain't close to retiring. Okay, now let's get to the other law that applies to the prosecution and what they were supposed to do. Witness credibility rule. Everybody knew. What the hell? These witnesses were saying one thing. They knew the witness was going to say one thing because they got them ready for the trial. But there was something put on paper. There was something in the police report that was said that was not matching. And I think they knew that. So witness credibility rule, the Giglio rule, okay? From Giglio versus United States, the Supreme Court expand disclosure rule to include impeachment evidence. Okay, prosecutor must disclose anything that could compromise the credibility of the state's witness. What was that? Them damn testimonies, especially law enforcement officers. So definitely law enforcement officers, but according to the Giglio rule, I think that applied to witnesses as well, because they knew that they were going to be up the line. And why? For me, that's why I said this was a whole system thing, because y'all forgot what I asked the last live. Do y'all forget? Why weren't the other teens charged in the commission of a crime, in a felony, a misdemeanor, whatever they want to call it? They was fighting. They were in the middle of starting controversy with Karmelo. It is shown that it was a 7-8 minute altercation. They didn't stop it. They were part of it. If they said anything, any statement that did not stop it, and we got Eddie recording, inciting, and it's a history of these twins beating up black boys and recording it, baby, does that make sense? It's a whole system. That's why I don't trust nobody until they show me what they do. I love lawyers. I love doctors. I love everybody professional. But bitch, show me what you're talking about. Show me what you're talking about. Don't give me the words. Don't give me the words. So that's why I wanted to know why the teens wasn't charged. Maybe that's why. Because according to what I found out is that while law exists on paper to prosecute these kids, the Caysen County District Attorney Office chose not to indict the other children under the tent. The state decision came down to how they interpret the evidence and witness testimony. Was this not a setup? The prosecutor findings. Prosecutors argued that the other students did not attempt to jump on them, allegedly, but they never came out and talked about what did you say exactly under the tent. It was 7 minutes under that tent. Where were you located? This, that, and the third. They didn't do none of the above in detail like that. They were talking about persons all day. That's why I'm not beat to be gossiping. This person did this. That person said this. It ain't getting nowhere. They should have been asking, where were you? What did you specifically say? Did you see Eddie have a phone? Where was Karmelo at? And you supposed to run it back to back. Same questions as some of them and then switching it up. See who's going to lie. Prosecutors knew that they was going to do it. And that's why they didn't prosecute the kids. Because they knew that the witness statement will align with them winning a full murder trial. In my opinion. Okay. So the jury ultimately agreed with the prosecution, finding that the verbal dispute or the push did not justify Austin pulling out a pocket knife and stabbing Mr. Austin. Did not justify Anthony pulling out a pocket knife and stabbing Austin. But again, there was so many factors that was missing from the cross-examination of the kids and his background. Big baby. We have a problem. So the Giglio rule, as well as the Brady Act I believe was violated when it comes to the prosecution disclosure of evidence. And that happened pretty easily because there wasn't no damn hearing. That's why they got Judge Cockroach out there real fast, because it was just going to get uglier and uglier and uglier the more they show, and we focusing on him. So to move him out the equation, they like, okay, let's move him out and let y'all just focus on this trial appeal that may not get the case turned over, because the appeal is based on, it got to be structural errors, constitutional errors in the record. We're going to talk about that. These motherfuckers, they set my boo up. They set my boo up. Jesus Christ. So we talked about the Giglio rule. We talked about the Brady rule. We learned something a little bit new today. You know, I'll be going research like, wait a minute. Our researcher is like, it's got to be something. And I'll be finding stuff. I'll pull it out of my butt. So state open foul laws. This is the third issue. Texas Michael Morton Act. Have you ever heard of that? Not only was they supposed to abide by the Brady rule, but there was actually court case in Texas. While Brady provides the national baseline, individual states have passed even stricter statutory law. For instance, Texas, where Karmelo Anthony case took place, they have a law called the Michael Morton Act that completely reshaped discovery. Okay, the open file policy, rather than letting prosecutors subjectively decide what is important enough to give to the defense, the law mandates a nearly all open file policy. Upon request, the state must hand over virtually its entire investigation folder, including electronic records, notes, phone logs, regardless of whether it helps or hurts the state case. We could file against the prosecutor too. Everybody gonna get fucking in trouble here if y'all listen to me. Everybody's gonna get it. Okay? Ongoing duty for the prosecutors. The obligation does not end when the trial starts. If a prosecutor discovers new evidence midway through the trial or even years after the conviction, they must immediately disclose it to the defense. Go look this up yourself. Texas Michael Morton Act. Lastly, mandatory certification. Before a trial can even begin or before the defendant accepts a plea deal, because he did it all in the same day, allegedly, of the trial, and had a fake pre-trial real quick, like guilty, not guilty, guilty, not guilty. Yeah, right. Both sides must sign a formal document in open court explicitly listing every piece of evidence that exchanged hands. This is to eliminate the secret deals. Did this happen? That's why he should have been granted a new trial. He did. He should have been granted a new trial. They shouldn't be doing appeal. It's a lot to this motherfucker. Everybody should be in trouble. That's why I homeschool. I put my kids out because I was going up there buckshotting on everybody. Caseworker, what you do? Math teacher, what you do? My son, what you do? What you do? Everybody, I was getting them pop, 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 pop. They was like, damn, we all in trouble. Yes, it's a systematic error. Let's tell you where we at. All right. So ethical obligation, ABA Model Rule 3.8. Beyond constitutional and state statutory law, prosecutors are bound by a strict state bar association ethical rule. Can we report them? Can we report them? Okay, I'll leave that information in the community page where I talk about where I'm saying tell. All the details are gonna be right there. I'm like, you could do this, you could do that. I'm telling. That's why they wanted to censor me, because I'm telling. They're like, she just tell the truth on anybody. My kids, you did something. You did this. Because that's how we are as Haitians. You have to pay what you do. Righteousness. Period. Don't do bad if you don't want to get bad. You own up to what you do. We still love you, or maybe we can't because you went too far. But that's how I grew up. Okay, so ethical obligation, ABA Model Rule 3.8. Beyond constitutional and state statutory law, prosecutors are bound by strict state bar association ethical rules. Under AB Model Rule 3.8, a prosecutor is forbidden from even filing a criminal charge if they know it lacks probable cause. Not saying Karmelo couldn't have been charged, but you charge them with murder. Knowing that these white boys, the descendants of Esau, was out there terrorizing black people, and that could have been a baseline of why they did that, the terrible history they have, and then you supposed to have some type of psychology or something as a lawyer, right, y'all? I don't know, because as a nurse, I needed it. You couldn't see that something was going on with Karmelo in them damn texts, that he may have been bullied, didn't know how to handle it, try to act like he was big and bad. Well, what he gonna do, what he ain't gonna do? Play Grand Theft Auto and think that shit made him some type of poker oka? Baby. So, according to this rule, the prosecutor, I believe, shouldn't even charge Karmelo with murder. It should have been second degree. Okay, so let's move on just a little bit. New details and troubling background of Karmelo. I think we shared that already. We did enough of that person's talk. Karmelo Anthony, appeal defense attorney in court, asked for a new trial. Let's watch this a little bit as we cook, because I got more to show you guys. We gonna talk. I'm always bring something new. They're like, where the hell that came from, baby? Because I know how to fight. I'll fall down, but I'll get up again. Baby, Haitians, we don't stay down for long. And shout out to my Zoes. They deporting us $500 a month. Y'all never getting rid of us. Ha ha. They don't want to get rid of us anyway, because y'all dismantle the healthcare system. But that's how they getting rid of Haitians. $500 a month. We got over 500,000 over here helping the system. Shut up. Okay, shout out to my Zoes. I'm still here for you. Let's go.
Anthony appeal. His lawyers now asking for a new trial for him. Anthony is currently serving 35 years in prison for killing Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet in Frisco last year. Senior crime and justice reporter Rebecca Lopez has been in the court all day today and joins us now live from Collin County with the very latest on this. What can you tell us, Rebecca?
Well, let me tell you, Jason, there was a lot to unpack here today. The testimony today included that there are allegations of a history of violence and racist incidents involving Austin and Hunter Metcalf. The courtroom also heard testimony that there was a problem also in some history with Karmelo Anthony's character and background, and both prosecutors and defense attorneys were trying to keep this out of the original trial. Now, Anthony's lead attorney, Mike Howard, took the stand this afternoon, and he testified why he and co-counsel Toby Shook made an agreement with prosecutors to keep that information about the character and background of the Metcalf twins out of this, and also about Karmelo Anthony. Now, Howard testified that the defense learned that there were more than 53 incidents involving Austin and Hunter Metcalf in which they're accused of fighting.
53 incidents involving Austin Metcalf, and I have a whole bunch of delusional ass white people inside of my audience sounding stupid. I'm just gonna be honest. Come on, man. He's not a kid. He's a terrorist. That's what he really is. Let's just keep it a buck, white people. Y'all be delusional. I told you making monsters and killers. I'm gonna get you on this live. Y'all gonna get it together.
Assaulting other students and using racial slurs against black students. He also testified that in a couple of cases they were accused of assaulting young women, and that teachers had complained that sometimes they were making derogatory comments towards teachers. And Howard said that some of those incidents went.
The motherfuckers, excuse me, God, I didn't mean to curse. These little demon spawns was literally threatening teachers. Okay. So let's get to it. Let's get back to the legal beagle. The things that some people can't hear do, but we getting them right here on the black community because we on it. I'm just being honest. We just have to. And the people who want to structurize this broken ass system correctly, because America is broken. When you look at this case, you can't say that it ain't broken. All right. So we're going to explore how the defense plans to argue that skipping this evidence constitute as a structural error. Okay. Now, that is the argument. Okay. So with this say on appeal, the defense will argue that the total exclusion of Austin Metcalf's violent background and the use of off the record shadow dockets did not help result in a minor mistrial. This is what the prosecution is going to try to do. Now, in criminal law, the structural error is profoundly under the constitutional violation that fundamentally structures the frameworks of trials. This is what we highlight. Unlike the standard trial error, such as judge admitting bad piece of evidence, a structural error is considered so deeply damaging to due process that it defiles analysis by a harmless error. It's not a harmless error. And that's why I said a lot of this that happened, he should have just got a new trial. That's why I said Judge Chittum maybe been part of the good old boy system. That's why I told you guys, look into Judge Chittum, see what's up with him, if he got any connections. But again, they don't even have to know each other. They good old boys. They part of the bar association. It's a Trump world. You make the wrong decision, you make you lose your position. Chittum, I'm giving you some excuses, but baby, you knew what you was going to do, because the structural issues that happened in this case should have got everything overturned. Should have just gave him a new trial, but now we're going to get this overturned. He should have just got a new trial. But cool beans. So if they would have let this information come out, they would have been able to structurize the self-defense framework. That's what I said. So the defense lawyer for Karmelo literally sold him out, because everything that you decided to exclude and you agreed upon with your friend is what would have helped to structurize a self-defense argument. So the defense will argue allegedly that the hidden Metcalf history of racism, weapon charge, violence, basically being hidden fractured their ability to represent the case correctly. Okay, so the self-defense framework, the argument under Texas law, a jury must assess whether the defendant had a reasonable belief that deadly force was immediately necessary. By withholding Metcalf background, the court forces the jury to evaluate Anthony's fear in a smaller vacuum. That's what I told you. Just that section right there. So if Anthony said, fuck you, Karmelo, that's what they saw. They didn't see all the rest of what happened. They just say aggression. About time the person snapped, that's getting accosted, we all look crazy. I know once I snap on people coming after me, they were like, that's why I learned not to, because it's just like, damn, once I snap, I'll be looking like a psycho. We ain't about to do that. We're about to do it another way because they're trying to set you up. So what that goes to say, it kept the situation in the vacuum, eliminating the defense means to set up a self-defense argument. Why is it structural? The defense will assert that the jury cannot legally or logically determine if the defendant fear was reasonable because all of the background about the killer, KKK, beating up black people was not there. So if the court completely suppressed the fact that the allegations of the victim was he was aggressive and had documented history of racial violence and saying things like that day, let's go kill this MFer. And they never highlighted, was he talking about Karmelo? And I think he was talking about Karmelo when he said, let me go kill this MFer, because he said it was that day. And you see this picture up here? That ain't nothing but the devil horns. I don't know why they're gonna put that picture up there. Look at it. Look at that. You see that? They be giving us subliminal messages, guys. I'm sorry. I'm take that off the screen. I pay attention to everything. That was the devil horns. That was the cursing, that Freemasonry stuff. Anyway, that's my tin hatter. I just noticed that, like, hold, I want to curse the audience. Moving forward. So, because this didn't come out, it created a structural error. Now it makes sense. They're not going to argue the persons, but because this was not added, it basically stopped Karmelo's defense for self-defense. Does that make sense? So if they knew his history, maybe we would have got the sentence that Karmelo really deserved, which was manslaughter. So physical abuse from the shadow docket. This is something that is going to play a major role in the structural error. The defense will tie the missing evidence directly to the fact that over dozens of critical trial strategy sessions, over a dozen critical trial strategy sessions occurred in the judge's private chambers without Karmelo being present. So we're going to get into that. I'm showing you so many reasons why this case should have been a new trial or he gets actually it overturned. But this is America. But I want you guys to understand why Karmelo should. This is a severe blot on justice. Severe. Okay? So the shadow docket, how did that create a structural error? So the argument, the 14th Amendment due process clause guarantees a defendant the right to present at any stage of the trial where there are present reasonable, substantial relationships to the opportunity to defend themselves. Okay, so he wasn't able to defend himself because he wasn't included in none of the damn meetings. Like, he didn't know. They didn't talk to him. His lawyer didn't go back and talk to him about nothing. Okay, why is it structured? The decision to suppress Metcalf's 20-page dossier was made during these unrecorded chamber sessions. The defense will argue that this completely locked the defense out of the room where it was inventory boundaries of their murder trial and being manufactured is the structural breakdown of the verse system. So basically what it's saying is that they structurized this case in a way to control the outcome. And they did it through the shadow docket, not giving the defense, because obviously the defense lawyer was there, but Karmelo and his family the right to a fair trial by being disclosed everything. Okay, so destruction of the public trial Okay. By using the shadow docket to broker a gentleman's agreement and closing the courtroom overflow, these two things are structural. The defense argued that the trial court violated the 16th Amendment right to a public trial as well. Okay. So when the judge moved critical legal arguments regarding evidence out of the open courtroom and included closed chambers conversation, like those ex parte conversations that happened in the YSL trial, I was mad at that. Gainesville didn't get in trouble with that. This is what the hell they be doing. So with that goes to say, this is how there's structural errors, because it was not supposed to happen. All these dozens of meetings and dinner and friends, it was supposed to be done in a pretrial. And if it was going to continue on for a few days that they doing a pretrial motion and they got to go, it was just going to be days that they was going to present what they was going to do, eliminate what, and the judge was supposed to say on record what cannot come in, what could come in. That's how a real trial is supposed to work. That's why I couldn't understand why Judge Chittum didn't just say, yo, new trial. Okay, so now let's move on. We got a lot more to go on. Let's get into how locking Karmelo out of this plays a role. So under the Texas law, criminal defense right to be physically present during the trial proceedings is an absolute requirement. Let's put Karmelo picture on here and get these people off the screen real quick as I'm breaking this down. Hold on one second. It's an absolute requirement. That's why I said don't be listening to people talking about it. It's okay. We can have dinner. We're friends. No. No. It's a requirement for you guys to do things correctly. If I have to do things correctly as a nurse and they say, what is procedure, I'm saying it to you too. So under the Texas law, criminal defense right to be physically present during the trial proceeding is absolute requirement, not a suggestion. By proving that Karmelo Anthony was excluded from more than 12 off-the-record chamber meetings, his new appellant team has established a direct conflict with Texas statutory and constitutional protections. All right, so this is how this will work for us. Direct violation of the Code of Criminal Procedures, Article 2801. Go look this up, okay? It is good to be a researcher, y'all, because I ain't biased and I can tell on everybody, okay? Texas law delegates exactly how a pretrial matters must be handled. Under Texas Code Criminal Procedures, CCP Article 2801. A trial court may set a pretrial hearing to resolve critical issues like discovery, evidential omissions, and constitutional motions. The statute explicitly states the defendant must be present at the arraignment and has been present in the required during any pretrial proceeding. Any, not the 5 minutes before the trial started. Any. Okay. The violation by moving these 12 meetings entirely into the judge's private chambers and keeping them off the record, the court bypassed the statutory definition of hearing. They never really had a hearing. The defense will argue that calling these sessions informal meeting was a legal fractional use of the word. Okay? This word should not have been used. It says the mandatory statutory right to be in the room while the rules of his murder trial was being negotiated is a true violation of his constitutional rights. Okay, but Judge Chittum knew this. And it's so sad that people was like, he didn't have time because he was just picked and this, that, and the third. Well, if you don't have time to read the whole trial, then you shouldn't be the one, all the transcripts, you shouldn't be making them damn decisions. They just picked him and he just got down there. I want to hear that shit. You knew. They've been put this in. It was a possibility. They picked your name out of the hat, not the day before. They probably had you lined up. Just in case. Why not? Why not be proactive if they had a high profile case and they were looking to remove Judge Roach Why wouldn't, and they've been put this motion in to remove him a while ago. Why wouldn't it? Why would they do the day before and just choose out of hat and have just shit him drive 4 or 5 miles, 4 or 5 hours to come? You're ineffective. It's not going to be fair. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. Shit. Let's move forward. I'm sorry. Y'all know this system be making me mad. I'm Haitian. I've been raised to question the system. I sound like my grandma. I've been raised for this shit right here. Okay? All my life. So I want you guys to look into the procedure, Article 2801. The violation by moving these 12 meetings entirely into the judge's private chambers. It keeps them off the record again, and it kept Karmelo out of there. The breach of mandatory presence law. This is another article, CCP, Article 3303. Now, articles is like second or third level law supporting documents. So you'll get the case law that match it, but then you got articles, and then you have judges' opinions that you could use, and it helps structurize the law on what they're supposed to do. So that's what we're talking about articles right now. Beyond pretrial rules, Texas has a sweeping mandatory presence statute for the trial itself. CCP Article 3303 states that if a felony prosecution, the defendant must be personally present at the trial and pre-trial. While the defendant can choose to waive their presence after the jury is selected, Texas court has repeatedly ruled that the waiver must be made knowingly, voluntarily, and personally by the defendant, not secretly by the lawyers. The violation in August 2026 hearing established by Anthony lawyers and prosecution, Anthony never signed a waiver. Nor did he state on the record that he wishes to skip these sessions. Because major trial logistics and inventory boundary lines, like the gentleman agreement occurred, were actively debated in these hearings. And I think the way it was presented was altered and clouded by the prosecutor and talking about damn content creators and all this other bullshit. Knowing YS trial was out there for the whole year. Woody was walking around here testifying, not testifying, still up in ATL with no damn bodyguard. We talking about gang. I don't want to hear that. So with that goes to say, this is some of the articles that support why Karmelo should have been there. So go look up Article 3303, Article 2801 to the people who got to ask why we're doing this, because we know the law. And we're not here to play no more with y'all. You thought we were just sitting here letting our kids get killed, getting tickets out of Kaboo, getting searched down. We was here learning law, trying to figure out how to fight this shit. Every time we get a public defender, we just paying money, going to jail. No, it's people like me. Okay? That was just trying my best. And I'm going to say this. You talk about Ben Crump, but his ass making more money than you, has a higher position than you, and he's a lawyer. So he's probably more educated than you, okay? Just remember, we all have different dialects. We come from different diasporas. And for people to talk about the way somebody talk, baby, this is America. I know you was left behind. Victor, Dirty Foot Victor. Thank you for being here. Mr. Can't Read, I'm reading to you. Okay, let's go. Fuck with me up with mess with you. I'll tell y'all now, don't play with Ms. Mama Grace. I spank your ass. If you want to come with the fire, I love it. I love Dirty Dozens, guys. I be by myself a lot. So by the time I get in front of y'all, everything come out. My knowledge, my wisdom, my mama, Dirty Dozens. You want to get it? Baby, the biblical history. Okay. Victor. Damn. Gonna try to distract me. Let's get back to it. You know what Esau do. Hit the like button. We're gonna cook. We're an hour and a half into this, and we have so much to talk about. Black community, to the people who are uplifting themselves and raising their vibrations and getting knowledge. So just in case anything similar like this happens, you know this stuff. It'll ring a bell. You'll tell your lawyer, like, yo, check this out. You'll check this out. Because if that's what Karmelo Anthony family was on, some of this stuff would have been avoided. Because I'm gonna tell you now. I fight my own cases, even though I don't do like criminal stuff. But just to let you know, I literally just forced a civil trial on somebody who scammed me got him to testify being stupid, and he has a criminal case already pending because I got him locked up. Big ass dummy, by myself, no lawyer. So if I sound like Ben Crumb, bitch, I'm smart like him too. Let's get it, okay? Hit the like button, okay? All right, so now this is how them excluding this information violates. I gave y'all some articles, the laws out there in Texas that was supposed to be followed, and that's why I said go get them. Go get them, go get them, go get them, go tell. Go report them to the Bar Association. Go up, report them to the Ethical Board. Make their last couple of years or whatever they work in hell. I said it. So now let's get into violation of the Texas Constitution. Y'all want to get to that too? Want to get to that too? All right. Violation of the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 10. The Texas Constitution approves or provides a subsection that basically highlights that the federal 14th Amendment supports Article 1, Section 10 of the Texas Constitution, guarantee that in all criminal prosecutions and people who are accused shall have the right to be heard himself or by counsel or both. Now, I don't know how strong that is because Karmelo did say on record, I'm not going to do this. Nah, they not about to get me, because he probably couldn't, come fast with the tongue like I can, like check somebody when they be trying to call me out, but I could just tell the truth and call them out. But I don't know how much that would stand because he actually said that he did not want to testify. So now let's keep it moving. Defense argues in court Karmelo new trial. Let's see. I'm just showing you some more news clippings as we cook on a lot of the information I got. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to make it too boring. You know how it is. You know how it is. You're like, oh. All right, let's go to the next video real quick. Thank you for being here, Ms. Grace. Let me know if I'm adding any substance to this situation. That's my goal. As you know, I'm not monetized. I will not be. I was at one point, but I choose not to be controlled. I can't do all of that. So just hit the like button, and I'll be putting my sponsor on the screen soon, okay? Black Magic.
Serving 35 years on a murder conviction for stabbing Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet in Frisco. But Anthony's attorneys are asking for a new trial. Senior crime and justice reporter Rebecca Lopez just came out of the Collin County courtroom where she's been all day. Rebecca, can you tell us about this new information about Karmelo Anthony that defense attorneys wanted to exclude?
Yes, Chris, there was both information about Karmelo Anthony, but also about the Metcalf twins. There was information today that defense attorneys said.
Hold on, because this channel supposed to have all this different stuff. The name, I based the name of the news, the title, and they just keep talking about the same thing. That's what I'm saying. They keep just talking about persons. I want to talk about law. Let's go. I don't care about persons.
Testimony that Karmelo Anthony had some character issues in his background, and that the defense learned that there were more than 53 incidents that they could document involving Austin and Hunter Metcalf, in which they were accused of fighting, assaulting other students, and using racial slurs against black students. He also testified that in a couple of cases they were accused of assaulting young women, and that multiple teachers accused the twins of calling them derogatory names. Howard says some of those incidents went back years, and he says in his view it showed a history and a pattern of violence and aggressive behavior on the behalf of the Metcalf twins. Chris.
And Rebecca, I think a lot of people
let me switch
hearing this.
Quick. I want to get to the next one where they're talking about his defense attorney, because I want to get to his defense attorney and his perspective, talking about he thrown off and all this crazy stuff. Baby, you got played by your best friend. Let's play this.
We begin with the latest on Karmelo Anthony's appeal. He's serving 35 years on a murder conviction for stabbing
Austin. If you don't remember, I said if I had a knife and somebody big like them, 85, I would have used it too. I would have been in jail too. Poke, poke. I'm not about to play with y'all. What y'all thought this was? Y'all thought we gonna back up from it? Bitch, he 85 pounds bigger than him. Shut your mouth. Let's play this. Poke, poke.
Austin Metcalf.
That guy rested dead, but I'm telling you what I would have did. The average person, poke, poke.
at a high school track meet in Frisco. But Anthony's attorneys are asking for a new trial, and any moment now, the judge could give us his decision. Our senior crime and justice reporter, Rebecca Lopez, just came out of the Collin County courtroom, where she has been there all day long.
Guys, I like to research law. I'm not bounded by any ethical board or anything, so I can say what I want. Okay? So y'all gonna get the raw here and the research, okay? Information that I get. Poke. If somebody was to do that to me or come and get me, I'm gonna hit you first. Stop playing, white people. That's what y'all do. Y'all stay attacking people. Stop it.
Following this case, what's the latest, Rebecca?
Well, Adriana, there were fireworks in the courtroom today between two former law partners about how an agreement between prosecutors and defense attorneys broke down and how that possibly had an impact on how defense attorneys applied their case here or tried their case. The two sides made a gentleman's agreement not to introduce character evidence or prior bad acts involving Austin and Hunter Metcalf or Karmelo Anthony. But Toby Shook testified that just before Anthony was expected to take the stand and claim self-defense, prosecutor Bill Wartsky said the agreement did not apply to Anthony. That meant Anthony could not be questioned about any allegation involving his former girlfriend and text messages in which she alleged he threatened to hurt her. Now,
so this is what was allegedly a misunderstanding by Mr. Shook, because I didn't write anything down. Like, oh my God, he should be in trouble. Report him to the bar. Okay, we're going to get to the importance of how you report all of these people. Point blank, period. So basically, Mr. Shook said that he misunderstood about, you know, the lines of the blurred lines of this gentleman agreement. So defense understanding, Shook testified that the defense team completely took it for granted that the agreement shielded Anthony if he testified. They believed Anthony could take the stand to walk the jury through his self-defense claim as long as his testimony stayed focused on strictly on the timeline of the physical confrontation under the tent. Shook admitted that they never explicitly asked prosecutors, does this cover Anthony if he takes the stand? Because they believe it was implied, which I said yesterday, and a lot of people know. Self-defense, you're going on the stand. It's pretty normal. The prosecutor ambushed him, his friend. Howard testified that on the final day of the trial, just as Anthony was prepared to testify because he was going to testify, everybody knew that. Obviously, they do what is going to happen in the court for the day. Go look at the YSL trial. They had things lined up, like what was going to be presented, to keep things in order. So you telling me Judge Roach didn't do that? And they never knew that Karmelo was going to testify at no time of this short 3-4 day trial? And over the 20 pre-fake hearings? Stop. Howard testified that on the final day of the trial, just as Anthony was preparing to testify, prosecutors dropped the bombshell in the judge's chamber. They declared that if Anthony took the stand, the gentleman agreement was entirely null and voided, and they would unleash his full history of violent texts to the media and everybody on cross-examination. This is when the scrambling happened. This is allegedly when Toby Shook said, oh, I lost hope. I can't believe this is happening. Okay, it says, he said, I lost trust in my friend. Howard detailed a highly chaotic, heated dispute that took place behind closed doors between the legal team, and allegedly Karmelo heard it. And he was like, bitch, Shook, you shook. You can't even handle it. You can't even handle your friend. And you think that I'm going to get on the stand? I can understand why Karmelo did not. From everything now, I was asking prior, why? Now I understand. Because if he ain't got the mouthpiece like me ready to get it back, and he's going, young kid, all of this stuff, it's not going to work in his benefit. Highlighting that the whole first half of the trial was trashed because he watched his lawyer not cross-examine. Nothing come out. Imagine how Karmelo felt watching that. Like, I know these motherfuckers bullied me. I know they're lying. Imagine. That gotta be hard. Okay. So this is when Shook allegedly lost confidence in his friend. Okay. So this is ridiculous. Usually within the court in Texas, it defines the burden of proof. It starts with self-defense, and then it like if you're doing you'll start on your side, and then it'll go on the other, like the prosecutors. Once you say you lay your stuff out, then the prosecutor got to prove that you lying. So there's no way that they didn't know Karmelo was going to testify. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? If you know he was doing self-defense, how you know he was going to testify? Because you're going to have to debunk everything that he was saying, because that's what self-defense trial usually consists of. It's the lies for me. So how Texas defines the burden of proof for self-defense. Under Texas Penal Code Chapter 9, self-defense is treated as jurisdiction defense. The burden of proof is broken down into two-step shift process. One, the defense burden of proof, burden of production. The defense must first produce some evidence, the defense, to support the claim of self-defense. In Karmelo Anthony trial, this threshold was easy to meet, allegedly due to the testimony regarding a physical altercation, but it wasn't, because everybody witnessed testimony that did not get charged with what is it? Murder. Or what is it? What do they call? What do you call when you tied to murder because you was there? I'll get back to that. They knew that the witness testimony was going to be favorable to them. Okay, it was going to be favorable for the prosecutor. So at this particular time, if he were able to talk about the actual stab and everything that led to it, that would have been the defense time to lay out their proof of self-defense. They never. That's why I said his lawyer should be in trouble too, because you supposed to lay out a fight for self-defense, and you knew from the rip you couldn't do it. Does that make sense? He knew he couldn't do it. So the second part of a self-defense trial was supposed to be, then the burden of proof goes back to the prosecutor. So then the prosecutor burden, once the defense meets the initial burden and say, hey, it was self-defense, the burden shifts entirely back to the prosecutor. In other Texas Penal Code Section 2.0, the state must disprove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt. Right. Did that happen? The doubt for me is the 8 minutes that was left. The doubt for me was a conflict in the witness testimony. The doubt for me was that there was no expert witnesses, and that they used teenagers' feelings and emotions and perception to be expert witness. The doubt for me. What the jury was looking at, and then we're going to get into the other violation that they should be highlighting, which was the judge's directions to the jury. We almost making it through here. I thought I got a big packet for y'all. We making it. Let's go. Okay. So now let's get into this. When a jury deliberates, the written jury charges must explicitly state that the defendant does not have to prove they acted in self-defense. This is what the judge was supposed to say. Whatever his jury directions, these were some of the things that he was supposed to say, clarify how they were supposed to think. Okay. Instead, the instructions basically highlighted to the jury that, or didn't highlight to the jury, that even if it was a reasonable doubt to whether the defense acted in self-defense, they must acquit the defendant if they feel that there's any inclination that this young man was fighting in self-defense, because they charged him with murder. So unless the judge gave them jury instruction and say, hey, and that's what we're going to get into, the judge was supposed to say, hey, according to the information, blah, 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 I don't know the exact words, but you can find him for manslaughter if the evidence that was presented to you will highlight manslaughter or second degree. This was something that the defense actually tried to petition for the judge to do, to give the jury the option to lower the sentence and lower the charges. That's why in the last part of this, I'm going to get off the screen and I'm going to re-show y'all my first Karmelo Anthony video. It literally got 100 views, but it was comparing the Caysen Allison case to what possibly will happen now. And when you see the Caysen Allison case, you're going to understand why I believe he was supposed to get manslaughter and lesser years, because the Caysen Allison case, it was pretty similar, with crazy text exchange, with both sides saying crazy shit about each other and balance on both sides. That is a case that I'm going to show you. I'm going to compare at the end. And then we're going to also show you, what is her name? Oh, let me forget her name. I had it written down. Lawyer Sonia, in her major comparison on why she believed that this case may be overturned because of these structure issues. Let's play this a little bit more, and we're going to continue to break down the facts here. Hit the like button. Hit the like button.
Shook says the defense based its trial strategy on that agreement, and prosecutors pulled the rug out from under them.
Part of the defensive theory is that, look, you didn't anticipate that Karmelo Anthony was going to testify because you were winning, and you were winning because we weren't asking hard questions because we were relying on the agreement in the first place. And so this is just some of the complicated things that this judge has to untangle in this motion for new trial, and will almost certainly have to be untangled on appeal.
Look, things became really tense between Shook and Bill Wurtsky. And again, these guys have known each other for a long time. And Shook got really upset and angry actually on the stand today. And right now what they are hearing.
And he's acting like a filthy animal. So we're going to kind of talk about the two sides of what may get the conviction overturned and what will work against the conviction being overturned.
In the courtroom is now Bill Wurtsky is being questioned. And yesterday we heard the prosecutors, or the defense rather, go line by line about prior acts that Hunter and Austin Metcalf had been involved in, and about racist comments. Today, what they are hearing right now are prosecutors going line by line about Karmelo Anthony's past and some of the allegations about violence and some disciplinary actions, and also some assaults that he had in his past as well. His attorneys are seeking a new trial, and again, a judge is expected to testify, or make a decision rather, sometime later tonight, tomorrow. He has to have that decision made though by Monday, when the deadline for an appeal runs out. So
not right here, because he made it on a Saturday in the middle, right after Sabbath. I'm like, oh man, he did it. So let's get to this Austin Metcalf Foundation, Karmelo Anthony legal team react to the denial of motion for a new trial. Okay, and we're going to kind of get into what the possibilities of this being overturned or not overturned. Okay, I know I gave y'all a lot of information to think about, but it's still a lot more. Let's get it, because this will be kind of like my last deep dive on Karmelo Anthony until a couple of months from now, okay? Because we're going to move on, keep our eyes on the Nolan Wells. We're going to talk about a lot of this strange fruit that's going on out in America, where they're saying that my Black people are hanging each other. We're going to get to it. So this will actually be my last deep dive for Karmelo Anthony, unless we have any major updates. So let's just play this real quick, okay? Thank you for being here with Ms. Grace.
Afternoon, a judge denied Karmelo Anthony's request for a new trial. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Teresa Woodard. Anthony, in June, was convicted of murdering fellow Frisco ISD student Austin Metcalf. The stabbing happened in April 2025. Today's ruling came down about 3 hours ago. In a one-page document, the judge said, upon reviewing the motion, the record, the evidence, and argument, the briefs, and relevant case law, the court has determined the motion should be denied. Senior crime and justice reporter Rebecca Lopez has been in the courtroom following this case really from the very beginning. Rebecca, you've been talking to both sides since this decision came down. What are you hearing?
So, Teresa, this decision basically leaves Karmelo Anthony's murder conviction and 35-year sentence in place. And tonight we are hearing reaction from Anthony's attorneys and the Austin Metcalf Foundation. The judge denied Anthony's motion for a new trial after 2 days of testimony. Anthony's new attorneys argued his right to a public trial was violated because the original judge did not provide an overflow courtroom and more access for the public. They also argued an informal agreement between prosecutors and Anthony's former attorneys fell apart, affecting the decision not to have Anthony testify. The two sides had agreed to keep damaging information about both Anthony and the Metcalf twins away from the jury and focus only on what happened the day Austin was stabbed.
All right, so let's stop right here because this is where we're going to break down what may possibly happen on appeal. Okay, let's get it. Part 2 to this. Okay, we over here cooking. Let's put Karmelo on the screen. I want to say thank you for being here with Ms. Grace. I love doing this. Once everybody got into law and exposing trial cases, I was like, oh snap, there's more on YouTube for me to do. Because I used to be watching trials and stuff like football. Like, I'm like, not guilty. I'm like, hold them in contempt. I'm like, what is wrong with her? I'm a night nurse yelling at people. Yelling at by YouTube. All right, now I can yell at y'all on YouTube. Now, this is some of the arguments that will work in favor for overturning the conviction. 1, the judge was recused. The fact that Judge Roach was recused for administrative error and officially removed by Judge Chittum on August 19th, this was a significant development. The defense will argue to the higher court that Judge Roach public media comment endorsed the guilty verdict and the structural errors, making it seem like he had it all set up. Okay, and the courtroom error bans, proving that he was fundamentally biased during the actual trial proceedings. So that's one. This will work to get it overturned. The Sixth Amendment public violation of a public trial. Judge Roach strict restrictions on the courtroom access and his closure to the overflow room in the middle of the trial. And that's correction. He did that after they chose the jury, which was ridiculous. No order, not within, just out in the public. You could at least be like, hey, we're changing some stuff up because it's getting kind of crazy. Somebody got threatened and somebody arrested. Like, he couldn't even do that. He didn't give a damn. He's just doing what he wanted to do. So this constitutes for Sixth Amendment public trial violation, complete closure of the public space during the trial without overwhelming justification. That was just supposed to put on record, are highly scrutinized by higher courts and can occasionally result in an automatic reversal. So this is something that we got to keep in mind. And I think that's why they pull his ass out. Because the Judge Chittum was trying to save Roach. These stupid names. That's why sometimes I be thinking it's a psyops. Look at that name, Chittum and Roach. Moving forward, coercion of the right to testify. Okay, that's all of them. Everybody. The defense established that the off-record gentleman's agreement entirely disdained from the normal trial strategies. They will argue that the chaotic collapse of the unrecorded deal, leaving Anthony with only 10 minutes to decide whether to take the stand, was unprecedented, effectively coercing him to waive his constitutional rights to testify in his own defense. So this is what's going to be working for Karmelo, and this will be working against Karmelo. So appellate court rarely overturns murder conviction if they believe that the alleged error would have not changed the jury final decision. But it probably would. It probably would have changed the sentencing if they would have knew it. That's why even the stuff I heard, I was just like, nah, something missing. But I was considering things outside that I knew in social media. I don't know what this jury meant, but I know he wasn't supposed to get murdered. So what that goes to say, this is the only reason why they will actually not overturn it, and if they consider this a harmless error. See, Haitian face. They don't mind the judges and the lawyers being friends, talking over your life over dinner. So this may be considered a harmless error. The disrespect for me. You the people, we the people. I feel disrespected that I can even research this and they'll say this. Okay? Sound my grandma, this them no good. So they may consider this just a harmless error. To win an appeal, the defense must prove that the error wasn't harmless. Prosecutors will argue that even if the gentleman agreement was messy, it actually protected Anthony from a life sentence. Because they're saying that his past was just as messed up. They would have thought that Anthony was a killer. Crazy. Because just what I said. I was like, oh, Black Jesus. One turning a bully and a killer because mama and daddy turning him one, and one turning possibly to a school shooter because he possibly getting bullied, don't know how to control his emotional intelligence, not adapting to this white ass community that he in, and so much more. And then the girlfriend, the hormones, the sex, and all this crazy stuff. Okay. Moving forward. They may think that it's a harmless error. That's bad. So the backfiring character evidence is what I was just talking about, because they can take that and run with it instead, because they would never know child psychologists there actually testifying, saying anything. That like this is part of child development. He probably said this, but he didn't mean this. And dealing with none of that was on the record. So it can play against Karmelo. The attorney-client privilege bar. These hearings, Karmelo was supposed to be part of it first and foremost. When prosecutors asked if Anthony, original defense attorney, explicitly advised him not to testify at that time, the defense successfully blocked the answer using attorney-client privileges. So at that time when he didn't answer, allegedly, they said Shook didn't answer that, but he obviously agreed with Anthony not going on the stand, because he was even scared of his friend, because he knew his friend was eating his butt and he was going to eat Karmelo up too. Okay, so the verdict on the appeal. Ultimately, the Fifth Court of Appeals will likely view the gentleman order as a failed technical gamble by the attorney original leading team. Rather than mistakenly forcing upon them to have a new trial, they may, overturn it. I'm thinking because this is a normality, even though it's against the law, and we're in the Trump world, is a possibility that they would try to ignore it. And that's what I'm just trying to get to. I know my words is jumping around, but I don't have as much hope in the system as y'all do. We got to turn this motherfucker around personally, and we have to get in the positions to turn them around, or we have to fight for our rights in this manner and show all of these calls for actions to get them in trouble and put them on a record. So I'm trying to have hope in the system, but baby, that's why I'm at a loss for words, because I don't want to sound too pessimistic, because y'all hear what I grew up in as a Haitian. Don't trust them, they damn no good, they want to kill you, white people bad. That's all I heard. Okay, so I'm just trying, just bear with me. Okay, so this is the overturning Karmelo Anthony conviction through a writ of habeas corpus. So we're going to talk about the habeas corpus, releasing the body on top of the appeal, because I think that's what they're going to be actually moving forward, putting a motion in to try to get Karmelo up out of there. Okay, so breakdown. The Strickland test, established in the United States Supreme Court, Strickland versus Washington. The legal standard required the defense to prove two distinct prongs. If the defense fails to prove either one, the conviction stands. Okay, this is what defense have to do. The defense, one, the error prong. One, the defense must prove that the original trial lawyer made mistakes so serious that they were not able to functionally correct or recounsel the defendant and guarantee that their Sixth Amendment rights, 16th Amendment rights have not been violated. The legal standards, the attorney's behavior must fall below the objective standards of reasonableness based on the professional norms. And that's what I told you. Basically, this Strickland test, to get this thing overturned, they're going to have to prove this stuff. And I believe that Karmelo Anthony legal team defense fell far beyond the norms. Not only that he didn't testify, but the shadow docket, from them not even getting clarification, keying around fake pre-trials about, yeah, I didn't think he was serious. Gross, gross negligence. Gross. That's not what it's called, gross negligence. But they need to go get his ass sanctioned. I said it, Mr. Shooks. You need to be sanctioned. Okay, so here we go. The hurdle. The court heavily presumes that attorneys make technical decisions for strategic reasons. Court rarely penalized lawyers for strategic gambling that simply did not work out. I want y'all to keep this in mind, because these decisions are going to have to be based on precedents too, not just how we feel. We see the shit that's wrong, but what other cases do they have behind this that's going to support that this case should be turned over? And that's when we're going to get into Attorney Simone as well. Okay. The next thing that the defense is going to have to prove, two prongs. The second prong is prejudice. Even the original lawyer completely failed the first prong that we talked about. Okay. The conviction will not be overturned unless the defense proves the failure actively ruined the whole trial. Okay. So legal standard, the defense must show that reasonable possibility that but for counsel and unprofessional errors and result of the proceedings that was held back, that there would have been a different outcome. That's the second prong. Not only that, the gross negligence, that's what I call, because you know I'm a nurse, but not representing their client correctly. But now he has to prove on the second end that all of what he did not do led to this conviction. This is what the defense is going to have to do in now this appeal. Does that make sense? So the hurdle, as seen in August hearing, if Anthony had testified, prosecutors would have introduced his toxic text messages to sorry, I do apologize, to the jury. This states the state will argue that the evidence would have made a guilty verdict more likely because of this evidence. We bring this up. So this is how it works against him too, even though we're saying like is lesser, is in text, things that and the third, because we don't have a specialist breaking down psychologically the approach of what Karmelo may have been going through. His text is bare. They can take it and make it whatever, okay, and say he was a problem child. Does that make sense? That's why I think they should have just did a bail reduction. They should have just did a sentence reduction, and got it re-seen that way if it was done in Texas. This is a lot. So if this leads to just them going to do a sentence reduction, I'm going to tell y'all I told y'all so. Because the way the system is set up, bitch, they here taking our money. Have us go through all of this and know they're going to set us the fuck up. Okay? I'm just a regular researcher, and I could see that I was saying things like, damn, he may not get it. I was surprised they gave a new judge, but I think that was a benefit for the judge, not for Karmelo. Personally. All right, so let's just distinguish the two things: the direct appeal that's gonna versus a writ of habeas corpus. Okay, let's get to it. I want to give you a little bit more insight into the habeas corpus, just a little bit. Following the denial for the motion for a new trial, Karmelo Anthony defense team, led by attorney Russell Wilson, will do a dual attack post-conviction strategy. Direct appeal followed by a writ of habeas corpus. Release the body. While the direct appeal focused strictly on the errors written down or not written down within the trial's transcripts, a writ of habeas corpus focus on information from Article 1107 writ in Texas. All right, let's get into it. All right, this is a separate civil proceedings that they will use to challenge the lawful of his imprisonment. Okay, release the body. Okay. This is what the habeas corpus was. If y'all don't know, they tried to do it in the Rodney Henson case and it was not granted, but this is what the habeas corpus was. Upon the upcoming habeas corpus petition will focus heavily on the constitutional errors behind the scenes, violations that the defense spent 2 days establishing during the August 2026 hearings. Ineffective assistance of counseling will be one of the grounds for this habeas corpus to be granted. The primary pillar of the habeas petition will be an attack on the attorney's original defense lawyer. Get him. okay, for the handling of the gentleman agreement. The claim to win the habeas corpus release of the body claim for ineffective assistance of counseling, the new defense must prove that the original lawyer action fell far below, as I mentioned to you guys, the objective standard of competency for lawyers. Okay, the petition will argue that they relied on an undocumented record, a handshake agreement between prosecutor who was friends allegedly, that regarded critical characteristic evidence that would have helped or broke on both sides either way. So it really didn't make no difference. The defense will assert that the original team failed to protect Anthony's 15th Amendment right to testify. I'm sorry, 5th. I'm getting tired. Where we at? 2 hours, 45 minutes. Let's go. His 5th Amendment right to testify by leaving him with only a chaotic 10-minute window to decide. So this is what they're going to be fighting under the habeas corpus. If y'all didn't know, this is the next part of the appeal that they'll be putting in. Now, violation of due process, the shadow docket. Again, this is going to be part of that. And that's why I have learned with doing my motions when I put in focus. Right now, I'm in a higher court fighting a stupid failure to pass ticket. You use some of the same arguments over and over in a different motion. So that's pretty much what they're doing. Putting in, again, the shadow docket is the reason why the argument under the 14th Amendment, a defendant has the constitutional right to be present at all critical stages of their trial. The defense will argue that these secret interactions completely undermine due process and fundamentally tainted the structural fairness of the procedures. So this is how they're going to be fighting under the habeas corpus. And then they're going to highlight the fact that the new discovered evidence and how that plays a part. Unlike a direct appeal, the habeas corpus allows the defendant to officially. So with the habeas corpus, it's going to allow them to officially introduce outside evidence. Now, this may help. So that's what we're going to have to do a part 7, okay? Because it may come in that Karmelo has some interactions with these Metcalf boys. So during the habeas corpus hearings, let's see how this works out. So the argument under the 14th Amendment, a defendant has the constitutional right to be present at the all critical stage. Okay, let's move on to newly discovered evidentiary claim. The claim the defendant will use the petition to officially preserve the hostile background of the victim, Austin Metcalf. The argument, they will argue that the original trial jury was forced to deliberate in a vacuum, unaware of Metcalf history or racial graffiti, bullying, school weapons, beating on his mother, beating on women, hell, mustache man, his suspension, him being locked up, all that. So how the habeas corpus process may unfold. The habeas corpus is pretty much a slow process, just like the appeal process. Filing in Caysen County, the defense will file the writ of habeas corpus in the local trial court in McKinney. Even though the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals makes the final decision, the local court acts as the fact finder in that. Battle of the affidavits. Okay, the court will likely order Anthony, original defense attorney, and the prosecutor to submit sworn affidavits explaining exactly what happened during the collapse of the gentleman agreement. So yeah, we're going to be following with a part 7 when this come up. Did anybody know it's going to be a habeas corpus file? Yes, sir. Review it by the highest court. Once the local court gathered the evidence, the entire file is forwarded to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals in Austin, Texas, the highest criminal court in the state, which holds ultimate power to vacate the 35-year sentence. All right. So when I get into that, on our part 7, we'll get into the timeline of the habeas corpus. But y'all just know we're going to be up in 2027 with this stuff, 2028. Okay, so these are other questions that I have about this particular situation that I think other people have as well. and I wanted to get to it. Where we at? Okay, well, good. We still have a little bit more time. But before we get into these other questions, I'm going to show Attorney Simone. Shout out to Attorney Simone, because this was a case that she brought up in comparison to the Karmelo Anthony case. And she gave her reasoning why the case may be overturned. Check this out. I was like, oh, snap. I didn't know that. You know, you learn something every day. Black girl magic. Made out like a bandit. Y'all know who I am. Let's go.
Hey y'all, it's your legal bestie, Attorney Simone, and we're going to jump right into this. Now,
we're going to listen to the first 7 minutes, and then we're going to jump to 16 minutes, and then I'm going to put our information at the bottom, okay?
Going to be analyzing this unique argument that Karmelo Anthony's defense team made that is the same argument that actually got Bill Cosby released. So I need you to just stay with me for a moment. It's going to be unique. Also, if you are a content creator, you want to cite me, go for it. Please do. Please just cite me as Attorney Simone and send them to my YouTube channel here, which is Girl, Is That Legal? Also,
is that legal?
If you are interested in a consultation or would like to take my new course called Get the Receipts, you can head to my YouTube channel, SimoneRedwine.com, to sign up for Get the Receipts, which teaches you how to do background checks just like I do. Link in the bio below. Now let's get into it. Now,
hold on, before we get there,
a few years ago, Bill Cosby.
Give me 1 second before we get there, because you know we are drifters here. I work hard for my money. So if you're interested in learning about tax liens and tax deeds, that's the only thing that I have to share with you to support this channel. We put in work here, okay? I'm just gonna keep it real. We got white America acting like they don't drift. But to just show you what Ms. Grace Levi do, we don't drift. I put in work. So if you're interested in learning about tax liens or tax deeds, I need you guys to get this work. Let's put this on the screen real quick. Do I got it? Yeah, Black Girl Magic.
Blowing cash on random TikTok trends? Instead, dive into Real Estate Monthly Info Sessions. Next level smart move. These sessions make real estate investing feel like a cheat code. Unlock wealth, understand tax lien auctions, and mitigate risks without the stress. Crazy affordable, like a Netflix subscription for your financial future. With thousands attending, it's legit. Wealth, knowledge, ease. Don't miss out. Sign up now.
Yes, Black Girl Magic. Made it like a bandit. Please sign up, y'all, if y'all want to learn a little bit more about alternative real estate investments. That's what I do, baby. If you want to learn how to do your due diligence while investing in foreclosures, land banks, tax lien certificates, everything outside of the normal, how can I say, Death Note, I got you, baby. Here we do our due diligence. Obviously, you see I ain't shut up yet. Hit the like button. This is how we drift here. We put that work out. Okay, so let's go. Now, I'm messing with the people in the audience. You know how white people are. I'm gonna just keep it real. White, the ones that's coming over here acting like devils, you know how they are. I gotta call them out because they ain't doing what we do here. We over here breaking down the math, and I got my whole own platform where I teach real estate. Whole educational platform, baby. Just go check it out. Hit the like button. Black Girl Magic. Shout out to Miss Simone as she breaks down how the Bill Cosby case was overturned in relations to similar issues like the Karmelo Anthony case.
He was sentenced to 10 years for SA, okay? YouTube words, we're going to use SA. But after serving 3 of them, his legal team had appealed in the Supreme Court of the state that he was convicted in, which was Pennsylvania. They overturned that verdict. They were citing, as it says here, due process violations. And it happens to be the same violation that Karmelo Anthony's legal team claimed was violated for him pursuant to the, quote, gentleman's agreement. Okay, and let's start with what the heck is a gentleman's agreement? Well, here in the Karmelo Anthony trial, that agreement was an agreement that said, hey, Karmelo, we won't bring in any bad history that you have or bad text messages or anything from you if your legal team won't say anything negative about Austin or his brother. Now, number one, I don't know what the surviving brother had to do with this and why the state thought it was appropriate to create a legal agreement on behalf of the surviving brother when they do not represent the surviving brother, because there is no attempted nothing on him. So that was strange. That's an issue for a different video. Also in a separate video, we're going to go into the uncovered evidence. We'll go deep dive more into the evidence that was excluded. Here, I just want to show you an analogy of why I think this is a strong argument that's being made by Karmelo's team. So basically, what Karmelo's team is saying is that there was an unwritten agreement between the defense and the state that Karmelo relied upon to his detriment. And that had the state not made that verbal agreement, then Karmelo would have defended himself more vigorously. He would have brought into the case, Austin's record for bullying, his brother, Austin and his brother's record for bullying, the racism, the fact that he got in trouble for racist, inward graffiti, et cetera. They would have brought those things out, but for relying upon the state's so-called the unwritten agreement. Now the state is saying, we didn't have an agreement. What are you talking about? Well, let's go back to Bill Cosby. Here's how Bill Cosby got his case thrown out and released. Not only did he get released, but he got released and they said, we're not even going to retry you, because here's what happened. So there was a prior district attorney in the Bill Cosby case, and that district attorney, when he reviewed the facts of the Bill Cosby SA case against the same exact victim, that DA basically said, we don't have enough here to bring charges and win criminally. So that DA verbally went to the victim and said, hey, victim, listen, we're probably not going to, we are not, affirmatively said, we're not bringing criminal charges. But here's how I can help. By us not bringing criminal charges, what that does is that forces Bill Cosby to testify in a civil case and do a deposition, in which case you can probably get millions. Because what happens is this.
And I told you guys I did that in my thing against the guy who tried to scam me. I took him to civil court and I won, and he told on himself. So that information could be actually used in the criminal case.
And if there's a civil case and a criminal case pending on the same related issues, then the defendant, when it's Bill Cosby's time to do a deposition, Bill would show up to the depot and say, I plead the fifth to prevent any risk that his testimony in the civil case could result in him getting locked up. That's the whole thing that's the whole thing that pleading the fifth protects. It only protects your right to be incarcerated based on what you say. So by the prosecutor saying, hey, I'm going to go to Bill's lawyers and say we're not going to criminally prosecute him, that literally forced Bill Cosby to show up and testify at the deposition. And therefore at the deposition is where he admitted what he did. But then what happened was later, they got a new DA, got a new sheriff in town. That new DA used the deposition testimony that the prior DA said, oh, we'll never ever prosecute you, so go tell everything you know. So the Supreme Court ruled that even where there is an unwritten agreement, if a defendant relies upon the words of a prosecutor to their detriment, then you cannot, then you have to uphold the agreement. Let me say that again. If a defendant relies upon an oral agreement made with a prosecutor, so if they rely upon it to their detriment, then even though it's written, the state must abide by it. Now that was Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, but it don't matter what state it is. Let me show you this right quick right now.
Go ahead, girl.
So then,
go ahead, teach them. Okay. Go ahead. They must.
Here in this case, so remember this title, the reason Bill Cosby was released from prison is because the Supreme Court found there was a due process violation. Due process means his rights were violated, with respect to his Fifth Amendment, as in the right to say, I am going to testify or I am not going to testify. So look at this portion of the argument Karmelo Anthony's lawyers made. All right, now y'all know I always come with my receipts. So here I got a copy of the motion for new trial filed by Karmelo's legal team.
So I want y'all to look at her video. I'm going to skip to 16 because she says something important at 16 minutes. But I wanted you guys to know that there's other cases that have been overturned that was popular that may give us some hope. Okay, because y'all know sometimes I turn pessimistic and I be like, baby, we got all of this, but we still may lose. You know what I'm saying? Because this is what they do. Y'all remember Toussaint, one of the great, our great hero in Haiti who helped us get free. You know what his destiny was? Because he trusted the enemy, thought he could go bargain, death in jail after he freed us. Okay? No, we learned. Fuck yeah, hell no. Even if we beat y'all butt, we ain't coming back to make no deals. Let's listen.
Applying to character, reputation, and extraneous evidence applicable to all witnesses. Those were the things that were going to be covered in the gentleman's agreement. Now, let me tell you, a motion to eliminate means basically a motion to limit topics at trial. You have them filed all the time. Here's part of the problem with this nincompoop of a judge, how he proceeded. Because he did everything in secrecy and there wasn't a public docket like there's been in every other case that I have ever dealt with. Even if you go to the Diddy case now, the docket, there are certain individual documents that are sealed, but the docket as a whole, it is a public docket. Anyone can see it, click a document and get and review any unsealed document. Not this judge. Let me tell you, did y'all know this judge was so, as in Roach, the one they had to get rid of because of his lack of impartiality or the appearance thereof. This judge is so interesting that so in Texas, every lawyer must electronically file any document so that it appears automatically on the docket and it's electronically housed. This judge made them take all the things that be on the docket, not make them publicly available, print them out, give him it, create an entire file for him, and he kept the file in his office. He's got it in his chambers.
Jesus.
No one can see the file but him and the state and whoever the state wants to, including Karmelo's new appellate lawyers, wanted to read the entire file. Do you know they told his lawyer, there's a document in here, I'm not trying to make this take forever, but literally there's an affidavit.
We be cooking. Go ahead, girl. I'll give you a few more minutes. Yeah.
David from his current attorney that is saying, I tried to see the full file and they told me I had to sign an agreement that I wouldn't share it. He said, I'm not going to sign an agreement to say I'm not going to share something I haven't seen myself. So his lawyer was willing to go to chambers to look at everything. So his lawyer wasn't trying to take documents out. But the judge was saying, no, you got to agree. You're not going to talk to anybody about what's in here, share it, and we're not going to let you see anything. Unheard of.
Baby.
Unheard of. They didn't even do that in Diddy. You think in the Diddy trial that lawyer, that federal judge took the whole Diddy file and had it sitting below his desk? Absolutely not. That was questionable.
Not. So
here, though,
I'm going to leave this information. I'm going to leave this information here for you. Her name is Ms. Lawyer Simone. This is a channel that I came across. When I hear good commentary and I get good vibes, this is what I share with you guys. I may not agree with everything everybody say, but Black Girl Magic. And also shout out to ATL Fit Lawyer that went out there, and her commentary on this case for the last 2-3 days was so comprehensive and clear and concise. I loved it because us on the outside, we did not get to hear everything. So we're at 2 hours and 31 minutes, and I am pretty tired. I'm just gonna be honest. That's why I started starting over my words, because I'm gonna just keep it honest. I do have a touch of dyslexia. Yes, undiagnosed dyslexia. Let's put this on the screen because I keep it a buck. And I had to teach myself. Let's get up. Let's move this. I had to teach myself throughout school in a broken school system. I was always in the 98th percentile, good A student. But when y'all hear me messing up words and I'll be tired and slowing down, that's what's kicking in. So with that goes to say, I'm going to be getting off this live, but I have a whole bunch more that I want to share with you. So I think part 7 will be coming up faster than what I thought it was. Because again, what I disclosed to you was not only that the appeal will be taking place, but habeas corpus filing. So we want to see that habeas corpus filing, release the body, see if it happens. A lot of the arguments are pretty similar to the actual appeal. Let's see if there's a chance for this case to be overturned. Plus, I have several questions that I had that I wanted to answer, that I wanted to go over with you guys. So what we're going to do is come back later on this week. We're going to re-review the Caysen Allison case. I'm going to let y'all watch a little bit of it because I talked about it. We're going to hit that up, the Caysen Allison case, to see the similarities and the difference. Then I'm going to go into some key elements of questions that I have. We're going to go back into the habeas corpus. I'm going to ask how the judge could get in trouble for firing the guy, the clerk. We got all types of stuff that I want to address here. I have like a whole nother thick side of information that I want to go over, but I'll literally be cooking for 5 hours, and that's not what we're about to do. So what we're gonna do here is, do y'all want to watch a little bit of it? I'm gonna save it for the next live. I'll just put it at the clip at the end where you guys will get to see this particular video. At this time, I was into other content, so I guess the algorithm says, shut up, you don't need to be talking about this. So when I did do the Karmelo Anthony case, I didn't get a lot of views, but this is actually what I did. I compared the that Caysen Allison case to the Karmelo Anthony case, and I wanted to just kind of figure out at that time, and now this was a long time ago I did this, what would be the similarities and the difference. In this particular live, I went into the police report. So the next live, what I'm going to do is go back into this video. We're going to break a little bit of these elements down again, get into what we have to share here, and all of these amazing questions that I have to ask about Derek Johnson. Can he sue for wrongful firing? The judge's instructions that I want to get into in more detail, because he couldn't instruct them to give him a lesser sentence. So these are some of the things, and that's what I was thinking was going to happen based on this case. Even if he was charged with murder, the jury literally could have sentenced him to manslaughter, 2nd degree. But that was only if the jury had the right instructions from the judge. So with that goes to say, I'm about to get off this screen. I love you guys. I'm going to put something on the screen for you guys because I didn't want to culture shock y'all, but we about to culture shock you right on. And now, let me see, because I'm going to have to do this right now. Okay, shout out to my Hebrew journalists. We have to do this all day, every day.
Yeshaya Rawak Wadash Shema Yasharala Ahaya Alahaya Nawa Ahaya Akar. The other night I cried for the 12 tribes. We've been through a lot. They still taking our lives. What we gonna do? Who is gonna save us? I think I got a clue. Yeshaya the savior. Here they come with the guillotine. We bout to bounce up out of here like a trampoline. To the wilderness we bout to flee, cause we ain't never get no love, call it Billie Jean. Judah in the window, but you know we got 11 more kinfolk. Family matters like the Winslows. To the east, that's the only way the wind blow. How you got me on. Boom, 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 boom.
Blowing cash on random TikTok trends? Instead, dive into Real Estate Monthly Info Sessions. Next level smart move. These sessions make real estate investing feel like a cheat code. Unlock wealth, understand tax lien auctions, and mitigate risks without the stress. Crazy affordable, like a Netflix subscription for your financial future. With thousands attending, it's legit.